He eats it. I'm sure he sees that peanut butter cups. I used to play with your kids, but not anymore.
Yeah, I'm over all this million. I don't know, you know. They all know.
Do you guys do kids?
What's that?
The kids work the areas where.
There's the Halloween size this time.
I know, yes, where I was on November 1st.
You recycler, you. I'm here for it.
Question when.
This one.
Is your grandma here?
Right. I took it for the pay.
Okay.
What did you say? I got it in person pay.
Definitely.
Hey, Lindsay.
Nice.
I got $5
I like your
pay
hair.
today.
I thought you were talking to me.
Definitely.
6 o'clock, are you ready?
Ready.
Hope everybody sit down there. Well, Mr. Munson. I call to order the city council for the city of Petoskey for November 6, 2025. Please rise with me to the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Beck, would you please call roll for us?
Demore,
Present.
Shields,
Present.
Actrab,
Here.
Walker,
Present.
Murphy.
Present, we have a quorum. Next, we have several presentations. First is to hear from the Housing North Community Development Director, Shelley Sharon. If you want to step up and to the mic here. I think you already have a PowerPoint ready to go.
Yes, I did send a presentation. Do I need to have it off of my computer or do you have it ready?
Have it
Okay.
here in a second.
Okay, perfect.
Is your mic
Turn
on?
Yeah.
the button there so the red turns green. There you go.
How's that? Okay,
There you go.
Yeah.
perfect. All right. Hello, I'm Shelley Sharon. I'm the Director of Community Engagement with Housing North. And I am here to give an overview of our Housing Ready support to the city of Petoskey over the last year or thus far in 2025. Some of our Housing Ready activities have supported work that is going on during 2025, during 2024. So I'm going to touch on that a bit as well. So,
You just want to say next, I'll.
okay, next. So I just want to start and share information about the housing need in the city of Petoskey. So our housing needs assessment that was done in 2023, and it shows the housing need through 2027. It shows that there's a rental gap of 273 units and a for sale housing gap of 340 units. In the chart below, it does break down. The top one is rental units. It breaks down where the need is, or even I'd like to point out where the highest need is really for rental units, but it breaks it down based on income. So the highest need or the highest housing gap is in the below 50% AMI, which is about 41,600 a year household income range. And that would be a rental unit with rent around $1,040. So that is the highest need in the rental area. However, there is need across the income spectrum. I do like this chart because everybody talks in terms of AMI or area median income. This does show what those household income ranges are and helps us kind of line up with what some of the wages are in this area and where people might fall as far as being able to afford certain housing types. So I also below would like to note The rent or the homeownership housing gap and the highest gap in this area is for 81 to 120 AMI, which is about 66,561 a year to 99,840. So that is where there is the highest need with homeownership. But again, across the income spectrum, there is a need for all income levels. We are seeing though, those at those lower income levels, there just aren't homes that are priced at that price range. So it's a little bit harder to get those folks into homeownership. Next. So this is some of the progress towards meeting housing needs in the city of Petoskey. Some of the projects that are currently underway are City Park Grill, which is workforce housing units, the Lofts at Lumber Square. Those are 60 workforce apartments below 120 AMI. Victory Square, another 50 apartments with various income levels, but those are also 120 AMI and below, with some for even set aside for even lower income levels. Michigan Maple Block, 204 apartments, Hotel Del Rey. And then there's also housing preservation through the CDBG CHILL grant for home repair. So I think it's important also to know and not just focus on new units that are coming in, but units that are also being preserved as they age. There are 2 single-family homes that are completed through the Northern Homes Community Land Trust. There's some other apartments coming online on Lake Street and West Mitchell Street. Next. So I do want to note the overall need for Emmett County. And that is because although, as you can see, there are a number of rental units coming online in the city of Petoskey. However, with locations to schools, employment, infrastructure, all those other amenities that are in the city of Petoskey, there is going to be more of a demand for housing development within the city of Petoskey. So it is important to look at the overall needs in Emmett County as well. So the rental gap in Emmett County is 865 rental units. Again, it's those lowest income segments that there's the highest need for that. And then the for sale gap is 2,505 for sale units. And that is between 80 and 120 is the highest need for those units. To date, there have been 197 permits pulled. That's since 2023 when the needs assessment was completed. There are 937 units in progress, but what in progress means, it captures also units that are in concept phase. So folks may be in assembling land or planning for development to occur, but they may not have moved into pre-development phase yet. Or some of them may be further along and have acquired financing and are under construction. So that does capture a big number. The 937 units in progress also captures those that I noted in the city of Petoskey. But it does show the ones that are actually under construction or moving towards construction are the ones where 197 permits have been pulled. Next. So I just want to acknowledge the hard work the city of Petoskey has been doing to lead the way for housing readiness. So these are some of the things that are really supporting and creating pathways for housing to occur. So the redevelopment ready certification from MEDC, support for the zoning atlas, supporting workforce housing through private and public partnerships, various housing tools that are in place to help preserve housing stock, to help finance new housing and help ensure affordability are listed there, such as Pilot NEZ, HTIF, and CDBG home repair funds. The infrastructure for water and wastewater capacity is something that will help with housing planning and the process of reviewing and updating zoning ordinances. So I do really want to acknowledge all the steps the city of Petoskey is doing to lead the way and set the stage for for
Sorry.
needed housing types of, across the spectrum. So, next. Here I just want to talk a bit more about our Housing Ready program for those who may not be as familiar with it. It is boots on the ground connections in the communities that have demonstrated a need and desire to take the steps to devise housing solutions. So this program really provides a community development liaison who connects local governments, nonprofit organizations, developers, local businesses, and philanthropic funders to generate innovative housing solutions that serve the complex needs of individual communities. So I do want to note that housing solutions, there's not a one-fits-all sort of prescription for all communities. Each community is unique, and we really want to meet folks where they're at, whether it's a developer or a municipality in their process, and help to support with what tools and resources or what connections can be made to help devise housing solutions. Next. So this has a lot of information on it, but I want to point out just the breadth of services and support that we are able to provide communities. Just noting some of the things that we focused on this year, specifically with some of the communities we work in, our guidance for zoning reform. I'm going to touch on the zoning atlas in a minute, but that's going to be a really valuable tool to help support that. We help communities explore the Housing Ready checklist and what steps they can take to support steps to meet the housing need. We've been supporting collaboratives and work groups. Also, we've done a lot of education on housing tools. There are some newer housing tools available, and also just people that want to understand how to use the different housing tools. So we have done education on the zoning atlas, HTIF, pilots, ADUs. So we've done a variety of education in Emmett County that has serviced those who are either developers or with units of government in the city of Petoskey. So next. So I'm just going to touch a bit more on kind of an overview of some of the support that's been provided. So we have brought the zoning atlas to Emmett County, and I'm excited to touch on that a bit more in a minute. We provided education and outreach on how the zoning atlas can support housing and community planning. We fostered connections with developers, landowners, and financial institutions to stimulate development discussions. We've supported developers in identifying suitable development sites, helping them navigate the various financing sources and how to apply for them, what might be the best fit for what they're working on, and helping them navigate that project approval process. So sometimes walking them through from concept phase to getting the approvals they need, or identifying if the site they might be looking at is appropriate for the development that they want to do, and then helping to navigate and secure financing for projects. We've attended public meetings to highlight the importance of the housing needs and housing tools. We've supported the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership and their monthly newsletter. We have facilitated housing tools workshops. I mentioned this earlier, but we've facilitated these workshops to educate stakeholders and community leaders on these tools that are needed to support housing. We're seeing with the high cost of construction and land, and the limited labor pools up here, developers are needing to utilize these tools to get either a rental price or purchase price at a price that meets the needs of those in the community. We have also coordinated the Regional Housing Partnership. So we coordinate Region D of the statewide housing plan, where we have about 190 different stakeholders from all different areas that we work with to help understand what barriers they're facing, what types of supports would help them move projects forward. We have different work groups within this housing plan. Some of the goals are to help, increase the housing stock, increase the labor pool, zoning updates. So those are, some of the goals that have been identified through this partnership. We help support the administration of the CDBG home repair contract in the early stages for the city of Petoskey. And we have connected with the McLaren Foundation to make them aware of the Employer Assisted Housing Fund, which they have resulted in committing up to $2 million if they're able to, acquire the funding from MSHDA to support either down payment assistance or rental assistance. So there's two avenues that a developer can utilize or a partner can utilize those funds to support employer-assisted housing. So next. So this is just some of the current projects that are underway right now. And some of our, past support included helping to acquire funding, just lobbying for support for projects, supporting negotiations for things like pilot agreements, special land use, working with the MEDC, and helping to lend capacity to the project. So sometimes we can do a little bit of administrative support or coordinate different stakeholders that are in projects. We've done some advocacy work for helping with ADUs and helping people who are interested in, either developing ADUs or converting to ADUs to what steps they need to take to be in compliance and improve the unit so that it's a viable long-term rental. We've attended a number of meetings with regional partners listed below: the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership, Petoskey City Council, and the DDA, the Petoskey Chamber, the City of Petoskey, and the Emmett County Planning Department. Next. So I would like to talk more now about this really valuable tool that we have been able to bring to Emmett County. The next slide shows it, how it works with, within the city of Petoskey. But we would like to thank the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation, Emmett County, and the city of Petoskey for their generous support that brought this zoning atlas. And our next stages with this project are going to be engaging with the community for doing some community planning around it. So I'm going to go a bit more into that in a minute, but first of all, just go over what the zoning atlas is. So it takes the written text of an ordinance and it puts it into a map form using GIS-based spatial data. It really saves people a lot of time of having to do the research on zoning ordinances. They can go to a map and click on a particular parcel and see what that parcel is zoned for. So that is really valuable for helping to identify potential sites for development, how they're zoned. It helps units of government decide if you may want to make changes to zoning ordinances, since the zoning of parcels affects how development occurs on those parcels. So I'll talk a bit more about that on the next slide. So if you can go ahead. So the benefits of this are to help the creation of more diverse housing options. And also, as communities identify the types of housing that they need, it helps also look at how zoning might support that. So majority of our lots are zoned for single-family homes, and that limits the type of units that can be built there. It affects size and also ultimately who can afford to buy that and household makeup based on just the size of the unit. So if we look at how zoning can allow for other potential housing types such as smaller units or would say like higher, I wouldn't really necessarily say higher density. When we talk about areas where there is already housing, we use the words gentle density. So a mix of housing types, or, multifamily housing types. So that could be even duplexes or multiplexes. Does not necessarily have to mean really high density projects, but being able to look at how zoning for different types of housing, zoning can be changed to allow for different types of housing. It can also show areas where there may be unused legal capacity with potential for housing development. So you may have a lot that may be zoned commercially, but it may really actually be in an area that might be suited for residential, or there may be a lot of vacant lots in an area that might be best suited for housing. Perhaps they're near infrastructure or transportation routes or places of employment, or already, in an area that the community might want to see more housing. So the next stage of the zoning atlas is to bring in community members for the community planning part of it, which is going to look at how you want to see land use. It also ties in different components, such as looking at where infrastructure exists, what the capacity of that infrastructure is, where there's transportation routes, where are areas of land that are of high conservation value. So it allows us to do this analysis of, okay, if we continue to develop the number of units that we need at status quo, how is that going to affect land use patterns? And how can we look at different zoning types in different areas to change the way that development occurs in our communities? And I think in communities like this, it's very important or what I'm hearing a lot of residents say, it's very important to keep the character of these communities. So this planning, is a really important component of that. Next. So this is the snapshot I took. I went on the Zoning Atlas site. It is live, and if you click the Zoning Atlas link, you are able to search different areas or jurisdictions. And here I selected the city of Petoskey, and you can see on the left there is a zoom and filter screen. So I just selected what lots allow accessory dwelling units. So anything in purple is zoned to permit that. I will say this is just the preliminary step. It is still important for you to go in and verify with your planning department that you are in compliance with the zoning there before you move forward with your project, because each of these different zoning types do have sometimes different requirements that go with them. So you just want to make sure you're in compliance before moving forward in planning based on that zoning. But this makes this more accessible to the general public. It makes it more transparent, and it also allows units of government to look at all these various types of zoning and decide if they want to make any zoning changes around that. I did link to below just an article on the Zoning Atlas site that talks more about how communities use zoning reform and collaboration to tackle the housing crisis. And on that website, there are a lot of great case studies that show the different ways that communities have used the Zoning Atlas for their planning. Next. So here is just some information about some additional tools and resources. Our website is just kind of a treasure chest of resources. If there's ever anything you want more information on too, you can reach out to us and we can help you navigate to what you're looking for. But there are a ton of resources on our website, and if you just kind of slowly, I'm not going to go over all the slides in detail, but if you just click through the slides, this is an example of some of the resources. I'm just going to say next. So our Housing Ready checklist is on there. We've developed a communications toolkit. The zoning reform toolkit is a great resource for communities to use. It helps provide some guidance and some options to consider for zoning as communities do zoning reform or, plan for changes in their community. Next. And then we have just some great information on a lot of different components related to housing development, such as community land trusts, housing trust funds, housing commissions. So these are outreach materials too that you can access and either use yourself to look through or bring to your community and share. Next. And then we have a handout on the HTEF, payment in lieu of taxes, and just another explanation on it. So helping individuals to understand how these financing programs work, what role does the unit of government play in it, what role does MSHDA play? So helping to understand the steps in utilizing these housing tools. Next. And then these are just some funding programs that are available that have been really beneficial to supporting communities through MSHDA, their housing readiness grants, their My Neighborhood grant funding, and the Office of Rural Prosperity, rural readiness grants. I will mention that MSHDA now has their employer-assisted housing program as well. Next. And then this is our staff listing. I do want to introduce Zach for those who may not know him. So this is Zach Samples. He is the point of contact for our Housing Ready program for the city of Petoskey and Emmett County. He may not be the exact person that may be assisting you with the project, but he is that first step to help you navigate. We have a great team of Housing Ready coordinators and support staff that some specialize really in some areas more than others. So if somebody needs support, we really want to help navigate and match you to that person that can really help best support you with what your needs are. And I do want to mention before I finish up, as far as the housing zoning atlas, we will be giving you more information on that community planning part. And we are hoping that the city of Petoskey participates in that portion of, that next stage of the zoning atlas. We have not moved to that stage yet, but we will be letting you know when we do and inviting you to participate in that part of it. So, are there any questions?
What's required to participate? What is the requirements to participate in the step you just mentioned?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a specific requirement. I think we are starting first with units of government to gain their input, and then the next step will be inviting the community for their input. So it's more so just the stages that we are going through to gather that input.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Thank you for your presentation. And you may not know the answer to this, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I'll just ask that if you don't, that you convey it to Shane, the city manager. In your presentation, you indicate that there's an 865 rental unit gap. When I'm looking at that sheet from the Bowen Housing Report, I don't see how that aligns based on the units that have been established to date. So I'd just be curious for you to give us a translation of where that 865 rental unit gap came from. Again, not.
Yeah, we could go back. There were two different slides, and one was specific to the city of Petoskey. So there was a needs assessment that focused on the city of Petoskey. And then there's another one that's the Emmett County.
Right.
So you're looking at the city of Petoskey?
No, I'm looking at the overall numbers.
The overall number?
Overall numbers from 80 to 120.
Mhm.
Between the lofts and Maple Block, that category has been fulfilled. I think you and I would both agree that the greatest area of need is less than 50% to 80% AMI. That's where the bulk, I think, of the spots
Yeah.
are there.
Based on what we're seeing with housing production, I would say that, you know, that is accurate to note that we are starting to meet that need, right, for the 80 to 120 rental units. And yes, there is the highest need for that 50% AMI and below. And I noticed that with the production in the city of Petoskey, it has exceeded what that need is. So that's also why I'm pointed out that the demand for housing may not just be coming within the city of Petoskey too, just due to employment and schools, that, you know, all the different amenities in the city of Petoskey. So the Emmett County numbers, that may be one of the numbers that I
Yeah.
quoted on there.
Yeah.
So,
My only
Yeah.
follow-up request is if you wouldn't mind for those 865 units, if that's correct, and if it's
Mhm.
not, whatever the corrected number is, to share
Yeah.
with Shane, you know, where do those lie in the AMI percentages? That's what I'm interested in.
oh, the ones that are in progress that I noted that.
And if there are
Okay, gotcha.
865, because that number's
Mhm.
different than what it looks like to me. Is that
Okay,
Is that
yeah,
Appreciate it.
and I think, I wish there was a way to do this. We've been really grappling with wrapping our heads around the data. We can pull permit data, but it doesn't break it down by AMI. So we're really relying on our relationships with developers and those that are on the ground in the community of what they're building. I can give a pretty, I think it's not going to be perfectly accurate, but I can give a breakdown of how many we're seeing that are below 120 AMI in Emmett County versus above, and rental versus for sale. But with those units that are in progress, not all of those are always going to make it to the finish line and, you know, really hit construction. So the building permits are the number that the state uses to track their progress for the statewide housing plan, because those are the units that have gotten to the point that they're moving into construction. So I think the building permits was 197. And I can do a little bit of work and try to line up what one of those, you know, have moved into construction phase.
Okay.
But yeah, the larger number, it's a little harder to tell you exactly what ones are going to move forward, but we could give you a general idea. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mr. Shields. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks, Zach, for coming and all the work you do. The zoning atlas is really exciting. I'm glad, I think we're very fortunate in our community to have this for the county for planning and other purposes. So really excited for that. You know, I really think it's important to look at the numbers from the county. Clearly, those were not separated from the county. And in fact, I would argue that those are the numbers from the city.
No, here's the numbers from the county right here. Those are the numbers I'm
We
looking.
showed different numbers, but besides, anyways, I just think whatever the numbers are from the county, we should definitely be looking at those numbers. And you know, what the Bowen Housing Report doesn't do is doesn't look at filtering. So this idea of when housing is created at any level, how that people filter into new homes.
Mhm.
And I agree with my colleague that the need is that low income level, and let's get that done. Let's do that. But it's not an either or. And I think the message has got to be really important that it's a yes and because focusing on the below 80% AMI housing, that's difficult, extremely difficult. It requires even much more subsidy than what I think a lot of political bodies are willing to do. And it doesn't scale. And similarly, the buildings, I mean, we did the housing TIF, and I applaud the city for doing that. And these rental apartments that are underway, they're huge, they're great. But they also don't really scale as much as what incremental middle missing housing can do from private developers. And the number one way that we can increase that in the city is by changing our zoning and loosening our zoning to allow more gentle density, as you said. So I applaud the city for what we've done. I'm happy to be a part of that. I think we've been dragging our feet on the zoning changes, and that's the biggest impact we can have at all income levels. And again, that filtering is important, that I believe, and the data is out there to show it, that if we create housing even at the 80-20% above the numbers in this housing report, we're going to be helping the people, not immediately, but over time, we're going to be helping the people at the lower income levels. So I really appreciate the work you do, and let's keep it up.
Thank you.
Mr. Moptrop.
Thank you. Good presentation. Kind of in blending with all this, the ordinance changes you were suggesting, some of the need is below the 80% and below. Are you able to drill down into the gap as to, are they the need for one-person studios? And so we can understand the size of the units that the gap is? Are they two-people couples? Are they what's the size in this that we need? Because to me, it's not all that useful, the number itself, if you don't have an idea of what the family size is in each one.
I appreciate that comment, and that's something that I wanted to bring up as well, and I didn't mention, but it's not just about looking at type of housing, rental versus homeownership, but it is what populations do we need, do we need to support? What is the household size? In some of our communities that we work in, where they're building homes that have 2 or 3 bedrooms and finding that it's only, the household size is shrinking to around 2 persons per household. So being able to look at, some of that census data, looking at what your population, looking at also, what percentage of people in the community are seniors that might be downsizing too. I can find out, we are planning for the next needs assessment, and I sent a survey out to our regional housing partners to give feedback if there's any additional data they'd like us to have collected. And I think that would be really helpful to know that breakdown of housing size and type based on, what your population is.
I think for sure, because it seems to me that for anybody that if we're reviewing ordinances, changes, or any potential developers, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world to know that out of the gap, we need 20 that are really one person, just workforce, they're just here, or they need 2, that's a huge difference in the investment. And if we're able to shrink, and if we could narrow it down substantially, we could also narrow down the cost of each dwelling unit, and it would seem like it would be very helpful in the zoning size, the zoning decision. So it doesn't seem like this by itself is going to be very helpful.
I agree with that. I think that is some really important data to capture. And I think also looking at how other communities are, what they're doing and how they're accommodating these different sort of household profiles, right? And what costs they're looking at. So being able to look at other communities and how they're doing that and fitting that need. So, modeling after that.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Shelley, for your presentation. So we have been working in partnership with the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership as well as Housing North for the past 5 or 6 years since I've been on City Council. And the zoning reform toolkit has been absolutely instrumental. I have a copy of it, and I think I was given a copy of it at the housing conference in Traverse City probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So we've had that in our hands, both here in the city, at City Council with our administrative team, as well as in the Planning Commission. And it's a really clear path forward about what zoning and ordinance changes need to happen. And it oftentimes feels like there's a lack of urgency around that and a lack of perspective of who we are trying to serve. And so when we talk about the success of Victory Square and the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians and their economic development arm, OEDMI, and their ability to gauge and leverage low-income housing tax credits, that is something that is not available to a municipality as is. And the reason that the tribe can access those is because being a native sovereign nation and an underserved population, as well as being There's certain qualifications for that. So if we could move the lever in the state of Michigan to understand and kind of free up those requirements, that would allow us to leverage the funding that is necessary, the high subsidies that are necessary to get to the 50 to 80% of the area median income. And the tribe also did its study, and they identified the need for 1-bedroom and studio units with their tribal population, that was a great need. So they responded accordingly and they built those units. So I think that that's a success of our community, and it's a model to be looked at and modeled as well. So in order to get to 50 to 80%, the amount of stacking of financing and subsidies is so great, but that is where the gap is. And so I think that's our next regional opportunity. And when we talk about those developments, there's also a lot of NIMBYism, like, where are those people supposed to live? We have no public transportation in this county, which is also a limiting factor to putting a development outside of the dense population of the city of Petoskey, Bear Creek Township, Little Traverse Township, or the city of Harbor Springs. So we also are faced with some of those restrictions. And I really wish that the zoning reform toolkit was used at every single planning commission meeting in every single municipality and township, as well as the county. Also, the master planning process with the Emmett County is undergoing right now. And so a lot of the public engagement sessions that they've held were mapped out with those areas identified. Where does the infrastructure exist for wastewater treatment plants, for water, for sewer, for water access? So I think we're getting there, but the urgency, I don't know if it's necessarily felt countywide. So I'm hopeful that we can continue to work in partnership with the Little Traverse Bay Housing Partnership as well as Housing North to get to that next leverage and be able to say, we need this 50 to 80%, and what does that look like? The only option we have right now is Traverse Woods with 172 units that are always occupied with a waiting list. So I'm hopeful that hopefully we can continue to move forward in 2026 and 2027 and leverage some of that much needed federal and state funding to make that happen.
I appreciate you bringing attention to how these lowest income units are going to be developed. And at this point, it's the housing commissions utilizing federal funding and competition for low income housing tax credits in our area. And of what I've heard from the state, the allocation, there's not a lot of allocations even available, and then it's highly competitive. So we are not seeing enough of those allocations to be able to meet that need. And I was looking at the results of your water and wastewater study and the capacity, and it looks like it has about a 5-year growth capacity for that. So that's another thing to think about as we plan for development. There probably will be a lot of pressures on the city of Petoskey with people seeing that there's infrastructure here. But then how do communities find those dollars to grow that capacity to meet the needs? And those low-income housing tax credit projects or, larger apartment buildings, they need that higher capacity of water. So they're, for fire suppression systems and everything else, they need to be connected to municipal water and sewer. So those are definitely some important things to point out. And I appreciate you bringing awareness to that and, starting that conversation. And I would like to note we do have some resources as far as a communications toolkit, because a lot of this is education and helping people to understand how these tools, what the need is and how these tools help, and maybe shifting some of those negative perspectives that there might be out there, and realizing that, we do need housing for all in our communities, and how are we going to plan for that? So.
Thank you so much.
I have one comment, and that's, thank you for presenting, Shelley, I'm sorry, Shelley Sharon. The city of Petoskey, though some may disagree, we've moved quite fast, quite well in the city. We have, as you say, 280 units now coming online effective next week. People will be moving in next week to the block. Ribbon cutting is next Wednesday. We are moving forward with housing. So your numbers right here, you could almost cross those out on Petoskey because we've exceeded all of those right there, okay? But we also have, people don't realize this, we have 440 units that are under pilot, which payment in lieu of taxes, which are for the lower income under 50, okay? So we do have, regardless of what people may say, we have 448 units, as I counted, that we have available for those people that are on the lower, under the 60-50 area. So the city of Petoskey is doing stuff,
Mhm.
okay? But we do need to do more, and we do need to do some planning, especially when you're talking about under 80. It is going to take a massive amount of funding supports, not just from the city of Petoskey, but from the state as well. I want to thank you for your presentation. I guess one question I have is, when you start looking at, you're talking of the need for under 50. Have you ever looked at, do you have statistics that would help me understand this? What is the age population of the under 50? Are those people with the need, here you state the 50 need, are those people employable age? Are those people that are going to be filling some of our community jobs that we have out here, where we need servers? We have restaurants that close down and are only open 4 nights a week because they can't find help on the other 3. Gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. I'm wondering, are we making sure that we are also providing for those people that are in that lower but yet workforce? And I can't seem to find numbers on what is the population of that under 50? How many of those are actually working now? And what is the age bracket? That just helps me understand better. What is the population we're talking about when we're talking under 60 or under 50 for the Section 8 group?
Mhm. I appreciate all the thoughtful questions. Please feel free to follow up after this presentation, and you can send either me or Yarrow these questions. If we don't have answers to them immediately, this is something, as we're preparing for what to look at for the next housing needs assessment, hopefully these are some numbers that we can dig into a little bit more, because we do want that to be really meaningful to the communities, not just do it to do it, right? So.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for your presentation, and Zach, thank you for also attending.
I've got one more thing.
I guess we have something more. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I just want to quickly say, relative to funding, I think one significant problem is out of Lansing. There's a lot of groupthink around funding 80 to 120, missing middle.
Mhm.
In Lansing, they ought to be looking at what's the data in the different places and have a sliding scale. Because as long as the incentivizing money-wise to developers is missing middle 80 to 120, that's what developers are going to build. Makes sense, and I understand that. But lobbying is really needed, and I know I've talked to
Mhm.
our senator about this, to make sure that funding is aligned with the data in the community as to what the need is. And for us here now, that's this lower group, below 80.
Mhm. Yes.
That kind of funding could
Yes,
really help.
that does make sense. And we are hearing the same thing echoed by other partners in the region. So hopefully we can be a collective voice. And I think we're just starting to see the impact of the My Neighborhood rounds that have been going out over the past couple of years, that there is a lot of the sort of missing middle being developed, and that's been really beneficial. That was needed, right? But there's also other income levels, so.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yep. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation. We'll hear a presentation from NLEA President and Chief Executive Officer Peyton Hines. Peyton, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. It's always nice to be able to come and give an update on some of the work that we're doing across the region and here in Petoskey. Yes, I'm Peyton Hines, President and CEO of Northern Lakes Economic Alliance, and I'm joined also by my colleague Jessica Love, who leads our community development work for the organization. So I know you have a very full agenda. I will do my best to be very brief and make sure I leave time for questions you may have, and we can dive a little bit deeper into any topic that I bring up. So I want to give a brief update on some of our activities, focusing a little bit more on Petoskey and the immediately surrounding region. We do cover a 4-county area, Antrim, Charlevoix, Emmett, and Sheboygan counties. But I'll try and keep it a little bit more concentrated to Petoskey and Emmett for today's purposes. I want to provide updates in our 4 strategic focus areas. So back in 2024, we went through a comprehensive strategic planning process for the organization, and we conducted community engagement, meeting with business and community leaders across the region during 2024 to really map out what are the priority focus areas for the organization in the work that we do in economic development to make sure we're focusing our limited resources in the most appropriate and most impactful ways across the region. So the first is business growth, and primarily our work in business growth is supporting our existing businesses across the region, helping them to secure funding, financing that allows them to upgrade equipment, to keep innovating, allows them to expand here in the region, continue to be successful, and keep growing here. Our next category is infrastructure and development. So we work closely with developers, with local units of government, helping them to navigate different economic incentives that may exist to further priority infrastructure and priority development in different communities. Talent retention and attraction. This is a somewhat newer area for our organization. We really needed to dive into this topic because workforce shortages is the #1 concern that we hear from our businesses across the region. So really focusing intently on that issue is important. And then lastly, education and policy work, ensuring that we're helping to equip our local leaders, our state leaders with information on the priority needs of our communities and how we can help overcome some of those needs. So for 2025 activities in the area, under the business growth category, we worked with some Petoskey-based employers, and we applied for the employer-assisted housing grant on their behalf, which they secured, and that is allowing them to retain or attract at least 14 employees here in the Petoskey area. We're also working with those same employers and helping them to continue ramping up and scaling their in recovery program that they provide to employees who are experiencing or recovering from substance use disorder. So we're looking at different grant opportunities, different funding opportunities to continue those sorts of programming to support talent retention and attraction. We recently worked with a new childcare, helping them to secure a zero interest loan, USDA loan, and are working to try to help secure some additional grant funding to conduct the renovations on a former church that will be turned into childcare, providing over 40 slots of childcare here in the Petoskey community. We also recently supported the expansion of the relocation and expansion of the company Astor Brands. Well, it wasn't in Petoskey, it was in Harbor Springs, but it does certainly have positive impacts on the greater region. That was a significant investment in the vacant industrial property, which was the former Daifuku Jervis Webb building over in Harbor Springs. So it's providing really quality employment opportunities here in the Petoskey region. So really happy to see that company move and expand there. We continue to work with employers. We go out and do proactive resource visits with employers across the region, helping to connect them to different resources that will allow them to continue being successful and continue growing here. So if there are any businesses that you are aware of who may be looking for resource assistance, whether it's for equipment or for physical changes to the property they may own, certainly please put them in touch with us. We've been working with, through some different partnerships to bring additional low-interest financing opportunities for businesses to meet some of those different needs. So we are the technical assistance provider, for example, for the Great Lakes Energy 0% interest loan program, as well as their revolving loan program, which is also a low-interest option for financing. In the talent retention and attraction space, where we've been diving in more deeply, the state offered a couple of different competitive grant opportunities for organizations like ours statewide to apply and use these additional resources to support marketing campaigns for talent retention and attraction in different regions. So we partnered with some other organizations in our broader region, and we were successful in securing those grant funds from the state. So we're using those for a marketing campaign that will help to share that our region is not just a beautiful place to live and to visit, but we also have really exceptional career opportunities, and just trying to generate more positive interest around the career opportunities that our region has to offer, that we're a destination for opportunity as well, not just to enjoy our outdoor assets and great communities. We are also hosting different workshops and roundtables with employers, helping to uplift some of the talent retention and attraction strategies that have been working well, so that we can help scale those opportunities in the Petoskey area and region-wide. So we'll have a report coming out before the end of the year that really highlights some of those different strategies that are being deployed. In the infrastructure and development space, we continue to serve in supporting the Emmett County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. That is ongoing support that will continue into 2026. We are currently and have been engaged in 4 different mixed-use redevelopment projects, some in the more conceptual phase, some underway here in the Petoskey area. So helping to navigate funding opportunities and conducting economic impact analyses to support understanding of the project's potential impacts. And then lastly, in the education space, we're always trying to host conversations and lead training opportunities in areas that will help to continue moving our region forward as a whole. For example, this morning we hosted our second Business Outlook event. It was actually at Great Lakes Center for the Arts. That's an event we've done second year in a row, co-hosting with the Petoskey Regional Chamber. And we shared an update on our economic pulse survey, which I shared copies with you, one from the spring and one from this fall, which was just released. That surveyed, businesses and community leaders across the region to understand what are their greatest concerns, what's holding you back from being more successful here in the region. So we highlighted that this morning and then hosted a panel of local business leaders to talk about some of their individual experiences across different industry types like manufacturing, agriculture. So really trying to get that broad perspective. We've also done joint education with Housing North and other partners, hosting or leading training opportunities for Economy Day with Petoskey Regional Chamber. So we're always happy to, take part in those training opportunities and do what we can to support business development across the region and support priority development projects across the region. Some of the impacts by the numbers, we often get asked, okay, so how did that result in economic impact here in the region with these different projects you're working on? Every quarter, we review our KPIs to see where we're at in terms of generating investment and securing funding opportunities for our businesses and for our communities. And 3/4 of the way into the year, some of the results that we've seen, we've been able to secure nearly $10 million in state and federal funding to support local projects across the region. Roughly $3.5 million in Emmett County, and that breaks down into about $2.5 million in Petoskey for local projects. So really excited to be able to bring those additional resources into our region from other sources. That resulted in about $14 million in private investment that came through those different projects. So excited about those impacts, and of course, we're pushing to beat that number before the end of the year. Looking into 2026, so a lot of the projects that we're working on, they do typically last multiple years because development takes time. So the mixed-use projects that I mentioned, those will continue into 2026. Our ongoing support to businesses around funding, financing, that's always work that we're doing. And again, we are always happy to respond to any questions that businesses may have. So please send businesses our way. We want to help them be successful and to keep growing here. And the last thing that I'll mention in the infrastructure and development space, we recently hosted what was called a Developer Day in East Jordan, and we're looking at doing that type of event somewhere else in our region. And if that were something that Petoskey was interested in doing, we would love to do that here. What we did in East Jordan was work with the city in identifying what are their priority development sites that they really want to generate more interest around. And then we hosted developers, realtors, other industry experts to come and learn more about those different opportunities to try and move the needle on those projects, which tend to be some of the more challenging ones. They might be a brownfield site, a long-time vacant property, but just helping to move forward those priority investments for that community. So we'd love to do something like that here if it were of interest, but always happy to support in any other way that we can. I'll end there so I can leave some time for questions. Happy to dive in further on anything.
Council, any questions? Mr. Shields.
You. Thanks, Peyton. I appreciate the presentation. And I just had one question with business growth.
Mhm.
As we see a transition from owners to the next generation of owners, do you work with or have you seen any worker ownership transitions? Models?
We have. So we haven't facilitated those transitions. There are organizations that specialize in that. Like there's one statewide organization that specifically helps transition into employee ownership. We actually worked with them in helping them secure a rural readiness grant so that they could expand that support across northern Michigan. So we'll be working with them on that and supporting them on that. But we're not directly working with the business leader to make that transition, but we do connect them with the resources that will help them think through the most appropriate exit planning for their company.
Thank you. So you would say that that concept and opportunity is pretty well known among business leaders in the community, or potentially you see it growing as an option?
It could be, there's a lot of support that needs to come with that kind of transition. I think for every business, they're looking at what makes the most sense for maybe them as an owner individually, or if it's a family-owned business, what makes the most sense for the family? And is there someone in the next generation who even wants to or is positioned to take on ownership? So I think with every business, it's pretty unique. But we have supported a number of owners and connecting them to some different sources so they can explore the variety of options and not feel like the only option is to sell.
Thank you.
And where is that business? You said there is some in northern Michigan that are
Moving towards
moving
employee
towards employee
ownership.
Where- Petoskey?
I don't know if there's one in Petoskey. Do you know offhand?
There's one in Emmett County.
I don't know if there's one in Emmett County. There's one in Sheboygan County. Riba Marine moved to employee ownership quite a while ago.
Okay. Just
Mhm.
curious.
Yeah, it's not,
You got a
it's
model to bring,
not,
like Derek could be.
I'm going to make note of that though, because
Okay.
that would be interesting.
Any other
know.
questions? Ms. Walker?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation. And my coworkers attended the forum today at Great Lakes Center for the Arts. They had a lot
Oh,
of great things
great.
to say about the presentations today from NLEA. I wanted to ask you some more, and I really appreciate you highlighting Montai as a model kind of business owner and the things that they are doing. We have several models. I can think of like the Winegrass Group here in the city of Petoskey, really looking for investing in housing for their
Mhm, mhm.
for their staff and for really for the whole community and the service industry. I am also very curious, based on the Montai model and the childcare subsidy, I was hoping that maybe there could be some more, maybe as opposed to private sector engagement with that, if there's any opportunities for public sector engagement for public sector employees, for subsidies for childcare as well. And I know North Central Michigan College, and there's been a work group that has been working on childcare subsidies. And we've even internally at Emmett County Department of Public Works, we've talked about like how it's even the cost for working class people to send their child to childcare is almost more than what they are making as in an individual in a two family household, a two adult working family household. And so I'm wondering if there's other possibilities of working with public sector as well and helping to figure out, instead of like employee contributions to a 401k, could there be like an alternative for contributions for childcare? Because sometimes parents of young children, obviously they're thinking about the retirement plan as they should be in their 20s and 30s, but oftentimes the immediate need for childcare kind of rules over the investment into the future of their own 401k. So, and even in the public sector, we don't have paternity or maternity leave as many state workers do. And so that's another thing that makes it very difficult to encourage young families to come here and work in the public sector.
Yeah.
So I would be hopeful that all the investment that you've done in the private sector could be a model for what could be possible in the public sector.
Yeah, I would love to see more childcare subsidy just across the board. It's a really challenging space to make all the numbers work, which is why NCMC has been spending so much time really trying to investigate that and understand how do you overcome that. Our role in this particular childcare project was really around lowering the cost of the renovation. So not subsidizing the childcare itself, but helping them to create this new space for future childcare. So really around those construction costs, which always keep going up, up,
And
up
it's gonna
anytime
look
you start a
great in
renovation.
In Joe's ward as well. So I look forward to seeing that development progress over the course of the winter.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else also? Peyton, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you also, Jessica.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go to consent agenda. It's adopting a proposed resolution that would confirm approval of the following. The October 20th, 2025 regular session city council meeting, as well as a report of certain administrative transactions that have occurred since October 20th, 2025. It's also approve and confirm the Petoskey High School Ski Boosters as a nonprofit organization. Do you have questions or comments or a motion?
I would love to motion to approve all three. Consent.
Okay.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Knobtrab and a second from Ms. Demore. Any other comments? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Knoctrab,
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Shields.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye. Booster Club, do you have a nonprofit organization confirmed it? Where are you guys? Stand up and take a bow or, yeah? Once, you want to say something, I
You
think.
don't need to say anything unless you have a question. Do you need proof of our nonprofit status?
No,
No?
no.
Great.
I'll email you the resolution
Thank you very much.
tomorrow or
Sarah.
Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your work with
Yeah.
kids. Great deal.
Thanks for supporting us.
Recreation, better than all the other stuff kids could be into nowadays, so thank you. Next, we'll go to public comment. This is your opportunity to speak to council, not the audience, but the council. If you have something you wish to talk or speak to council about, and it's something that's not on the agenda, I would appreciate if you waited until the part that you've come here for. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to council at this time? All right. Oh, Mr. Munson.
Did you say about not being on agenda?
If it's not on the agenda coming up, come up and speak.
Keith Munson, 1034 Wakazoo. First, I'd like to comment on the road construction on Howard Street. Several of the blocks leading up the hill from the post office have become narrower by 5 feet. And this seems to be the policy of the city. This same thing has happened on Kalamazoo Avenue. And I think this is, we use the term, this is for traffic calming or pedestrian access, whatever you want to call it. I think it is misdirected. I call it traffic congestion. We're only going to have more vehicles, more traffic. We've got a number of all kinds of electric bicycles, skateboards, scooters that are out there. And we also have a number of work vehicles on the road. And I only see this as congesting traffic. I think it's a misguided policy, and I wish the city would take another look at this and change it. There's always people that are going to be in a hurry, that can't wait, and they're going to take chances. And I think we're just heading for a situation where there's going to be some kind of incident. Okay, secondly, in the past in Petoskey, to be a mover and shaker of policy here, there was kind of two qualifications. You needed to be either some kind of prominent resident or to have money. And since I didn't fall into either one of those categories, I kind of stayed out of community affairs. Several years ago, a piece of paper appeared in my door, and the person said, "I'm running for city council, and here's my contact information, and let me know what you think." So I contacted Derek, And he met with me and we went over the issues I had. And I was just astounded because I've been a resident most of my life here and no one had ever said that before. Come and talk to me. So immediately I was impressed. So this doesn't mean that Derek and I agree on everything, which we don't. But I've always felt, while he's served on council, that he represented us in the second ward and was always available to listen. So Derek, I appreciate your service to the city and for listening to those of us in the second ward.
Thank you, Keith. Those are very kind words.
Anyone else wish to speak to council? There being none, we're gonna go to city manager's update and I'm turning it over to city manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. As this is our first meeting of the month, I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight staff, work, birthdays and anniversaries, work anniversaries for the month of November. A number of them for the month, so appreciate your patience. Justin Botham in Public Works celebrates a birthday, celebrated a birthday on the 4th. Lisa DeNoyer and myself shared a birthday today in the office. Yay.
Happy birthday.
Val Meyerson has her birthday tomorrow. Library Director Marty Flynn, Public Work or Water Wastewater Director on November 8th. Matt Mikulski, Public Safety Lieutenant on the 8th of November. Chandler Cohn, Electric Department, November 10. Sydney Nielsen, Water Wastewater, November 10th. Bridget Lemure in Finance Department, November 12th. Councilmember Demore, also on the 12th of November. Excuse me. Mike Petrowski, Public Works on the 14th of November. Dave Kresge, Parks Department, November 17. Scott Lamont, Public Safety, November 18. And Councilmember Walker celebrates a birthday this month on November 26. So happy birthday to all.
I have a concern that I think people are gonna think that we're only hiring people in November.
Sounds like it.
Usually you list 2 or 3. and
I know.
you got a whole page full
Yeah.
of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Similarly, November work anniversaries this month. Hunter Arnold in Public Safety celebrates 5 years with the city. Will Bowen, Public Safety, 7 years. Mike Petrowski, Public Works, 9 years. Drew Levison in the Electric Department, 9 years. Jordan Rea, Water Wastewater, 9 years with the city. Lisa Blair in the Finance Department, 10 years. Bob Nichols, Public Works, 13 years. And Director Carr, Public Safety, celebrates 21 years of service this month. I'm going to turn it over to our clerk to kind of go over and do a summary of our election that happened on Tuesday, November 4. Sarah?
First, congrats, Charlie, Joe, Lindsay. You'll get your oaths the first meeting in January.
Okay.
I just wanted to give a little bit of statistics from Tuesday. As you can see, it was a very low turnout. We only had wards 2, 3, and 4. 1% of our voters in those 3 wards came out in person. That was a total of 56 people walked through the door and voted. We did have an absentee ballot turnout of 525 that were tabulated in our AV counting board, which was about 14%, and then 85% did not vote. There was a total of 3,794 voters within those 3 wards. And overall, 15% of the city voted on Tuesday, which is minimal. And a shout out to our election inspectors. I will name each and one of these individuals because they are the workhorses behind Tuesday's election. And a few of you are in the room. Thank you, Kate. So Agnes Shaw chaired Ward 2, Norb Daniel, Cynthia McWaters, Donna Wiklansky, Linda Vanderberg. Ward 3, Elaine Pelk chaired. We had Rose Fitzgerald, Lee Phillips, Mary Peterman, Emily Meyerson, Jill Thompson, Wanda White. Ward 4, Barb Daniel chaired, Laura Scalarup, Sue Moffett, Sherry McGuffin, Kate Marshall, Christine Gebhard, and our AV Counting Board that tabulates only absentee ballots as a separate precinct. Kendall Stanley chaired, Rick and Lisa Lloyd, Grace Ketchum, and Rose Fitzgerald finished her first shift and then helped us out there for a few hours. Our receiving board was Christine Gebhardt and Jill Thompson were a team, and then Rick Lloyd and Emily Meyerson. So again, thank you to our election inspectors. Obviously, they're transparent, they're administered by bipartisan manner, and they're conducted by professionals. I'll also say thank you to a couple finance members, staff that helped me out, Nicole Stradling, Lisa Grant, which was the first one this year, or ever, I should say, Audrey Plath, and then help from Public Safety and Parks and Rec. That's all I have. Any questions? Joe?
I do have a question, is there any options? I mean, the low turnout was obvious. I mean, there was nothing on the ballot other than the three of us unopposed. Is there any option? Because this is quite, having served with the elections, it gets pretty daggone boring. And it seems like this is way overkill when we know we have such a low turnout. Is there any options?
No option, where by law, we have to have the election regardless if they're unopposed. I will be bringing forth a discussion for council to consider potentially consolidating precincts, because that is an option. But I want to have a discussion or hear from you before the work that I do that has to go to the election commission, which then would come back for ultimate approval from you guys.
So that was really the core of my question, was the cost of this
Mhm,
is intense.
mhm.
And then with all the absentee, or whatever they call them, the absentee, I mean, it's way overkill on having all these wards do this. And the cost is just crazy.
Yeah, so that'll be coming, I would imagine, maybe by the end of the year, if not the very beginning of 2026.
Yeah. Ms. Walker.
I also want to extend the biggest thank you to Sarah Beck, because obviously she didn't toot her own horn, but yes, thank you so much for coordinating all of the above. And if there is the possibility of quantifying what an election like this one costs, I would be interested to know that, as we also consider consolidation.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring all that information forward. Roughly, I would say from Tuesday, 10 to 12 grand, including payroll, rental of the facility, food, just the bare minimum, let alone the supplies, but we use those for every election, so.
You had looked at moving it in here. Is it the elevator? Is that the problem? Or is it?
No, we have a study right now that we're looking into to see what accessible
Okay.
items in the building, which does also include the outside.
The bathrooms are not ADA accessible as it stands currently, so we would have to make some changes there, but.
Okay. I know it's, the biggest part of it is the rental of the hall, isn't it?
That is one of it.
What's that,
Mhm.
5,000?
No, not
Not
that
that
much,
much,
but
no.
you have certainly a cost, and
Okay.
the thing I think we have to keep in mind, it doesn't matter if there's 3 people that walk through or 5,000, the setup, it's all the same.
Right.
And it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of work, and we all know that, but it doesn't matter what we would love to have everybody to come out and vote. That's certainly important, but it doesn't really matter how many, because the process is the same.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I see that we had 56 people voted that day and we had 27 workers, so that was like. not even-
That's on one.
There were bets going on.
We're fighting over the people that walked in.
Puzzle they were working on as well.
Mr. Moore,
Yeah, I certainly respect the perspectives that have been offered here, but I do want to offer the counterpoint, and I know we'll have dialogue about this. But when we start talking about consolidating, the flip side is when you have a big election, like it's likely we will next November, what is the impact then on voter lines and that sort of thing? So again, not a dialogue for today, but just a counterpoint to what's been offered.
Moving
A
along.
few other things to hit on. I wanted to let council know and the public, we do have our capital improvement plan on our website. This is, we purchased some new software this year that was very helpful for staff and finance department to assist us in compiling this capital improvement plan. But they also, the other piece of this was to have a document that was interactive. And so Sarah, can you click on that link? Hopefully it works, maybe it won't, but. Maybe not. So it's worth trying to.
It's working on this thing, but it's not.
Okay, it's not showing up. But I would just, guess, ask people to go to our website. It's all of our 6-year capital improvement plan is there. You can really click on any and everything and the data can be shown either by category, by fund, by department. You can really play with it, kind of plug and play and it shows every project in there. If you click on a project, it'll give you the detail for that project. So I'd encourage folks to check it out. There's nothing you can, I shouldn't say there's nothing, you really can't break it. It's there. That's what it's for. I'm sure somebody can figure it out, but it's just another way we can hopefully engage with the public and they can see the data in a way that makes sense to them. So we won't spend more time on it, but yeah, if you scroll down a little bit further, it has all of the projects. Keep going. So there's all the projects. If you click on the first one there, and that'll take you to the detail sheet. Talks about where that project is being funded, kind of a little bit of background on it. So just a lot of good detail, a lot of information on that for folks to kind of dive into. So we hope folks take advantage of that opportunity as well. As the mayor mentioned earlier, wanted to let council know again, November 12th, next, let's see, is that Tuesday or Wednesday? Next Wednesday, November 12th at 1 o'clock, we'll have a groundbreaking at the block at
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
Yeah, I was wondering what unit it was, because it
so
doesn't
it's the
say.
first 2 units that are closest to the river.
It doesn't say if it was the block or loft at Lumber Square. That's why I was like, which one?
Yeah, they've changed their marketing and branding a little bit. I think now it's the block at Petoskey is what it's called. So yeah, that's where they'll be doing the groundbreaking. We're happy to continue to support them in this effort. So this will provide the first 2, which I believe is about 60-ish units, Mayor. Do you? Yeah. So those are leasing right now. They have a pretty active website that folks can go on to, and they're doing open house tours for prospective renters right now. So we encourage folks to come out and support that project as that continues. A few other things to bring to your attention. As you know, we received a grant, $100,000 grant for doing an energy audit at the Carnegie Building. This will be our historic window assessment and rehabilitation. We have a number of windows that I haven't personally seen this myself, but if you talk to Val or others that utilize the Carnegie, if the wind's coming out of the right direction and you have snow, you can actually see snow inside the building. So that's not usually a good scenario to see. So a lot of our windows are just drafty and, but we want to be very aware of the historical integrity of the building and honor that. So we're going through this process now of completing an energy audit. This will be looking at how that building uses energy and identifying smart ways to improve comfort and at the same time reducing waste. We'll be doing the historic window assessment. This is where we'll document each of the windows, the condition of the windows. We'll have repairs that will be made and we'll plan for how we care for these windows long-term, keeping the building beautiful and functional for years to come. So our plan is to rebuild or not to replace the windows, but to kind of pull them apart, kind of rebuild them. And there's craftsmen, there's people that are specialists in historic window preservation. So we're hoping that we can connect with one. We have an RFP out that's out right now to hopefully get a contractor engaged to help us with this effort. So these upgrades will help us support our goals of placemaking, community building, and celebrating Petoskey's rich history while making downtown even more vibrant and energy smart. So that is just getting kicked off now. Myself, Amy, and Val have been the staff members that have assisted with that project and will be assisting with that project. Another critical update, as we all know, leaves are finally getting to that point where they're falling. We completed our first week of pickup around the city. So we've also pushed out an update that next week, starting on Wednesday and Thursday, Wednesday the 12th and Thursday the 13th, we'll be going through all the wards in the city. So circling the city on those 2 days. That'll be our second round of pickup. And then the following week, the following Wednesday, the following Thursday, we'll be doing exactly the same thing. All 4 wards will be picked up those 2 days. And like we always do, we always take care of our residents. If there's needs to extend that, we will modify that as needed. As we all know, there's a holiday in northern Michigan on November 15th. So we're losing a lot of staff for a few days, but they will be coming back. That's my city manager report. Happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions for the city manager, Mr. Knobtrop.
Just one, could you, Shane, when is the budget going to be presented?
Yes, that's next meeting on the 17th.
Next meeting, and Tina forwarded me it's called the Michigan Community Financial Dashboard.
Yes.
And it is a wonderful little thing, and I just would be cool if you just considered doing a little bit of benchmarking with Petoskey, with others on some of the key items. Because it is very interesting to see how we compare to others.
Sure. Yep, so that first reading, that presentation will happen at our next meeting. So hopefully the budget binders will be going out to you by middle of next week is the goal. We have a significant amount of work still to do, but this is what we do.
Anyone else?
Tina.
Mr. Moore.
So first of all, I'm supposed to give the mayor credit because he forwarded the website to me.
You took
So-
the credit.
Put that completely on the record here.
So.
My question is when, if you know, when we will be getting survey reports from the parks and zoning and all that sort of thing, if that's on.
That'll be on November 17th as well. We'll be presenting the master plan documents for Winter Sports Park. We've been doing a lot of community engagement with folks electronically and have had things set up in the foyer of City Hall for a number of weeks as well. So we will be presenting that data on the 17th as well.
Mr. Moore.
So will that be in addition to the plans themselves, the actual data, you know, who thought what and?
Yeah, I'll push out the actual written responses, but the actual report will have that presentation as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Council, anything else? Public have a question for city council regarding the city manager's update. Good, there being none, we move on. Next is old business, the adoption of a proposed resolution that would confirm acceptance of a recommendation of special assessment role that would spread cost of programs and services as requested by the city's downtown management board, and that would schedule a November 17th public hearing to receive comments concerning these proposed special assessments.
Yeah, so this continues our marathon process of getting this special assessment out. So tonight we're asking council to adopt the proposed resolution that would confirm council's acceptance of the role, order that the role be placed on file here at City Hall for inspection, and we'll schedule a public hearing for 6 o'clock Monday, November 17th to receive comments concerning the special assessment.
Council. Mr. Shields.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve, to adopt the proposed resolution.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion,
I have
Mayor.
a motion from Mr. Shields, a second from Mr. Walker, that Ms. Walker, that would set up the scheduled November 17th public hearing to receive comments on the special assessment. Any other comments or questions? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Shields,
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Demore,
Aye.
Knopftrab,
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, adoption of a proposed resolution approving the 2026 city council meeting schedule and the convention dates. And I turn it over to city manager
Wait,
Horn.
unless we missed one.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
wait.
We need.
Did I miss some?
Yeah, A, the traffic order.
Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry.
Right.
Adoption of a proposed resolution authorizing a traffic order confirmation which would designating a four-way stop on West Lake Street and Ingalls Avenue and a one-way stop on Buckley Avenue and Washington Street. And I turn it over to city manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've had a number of, even that predate my tenure here at City Hall. And since I've been here, we've had a few additional concerns placed on the intersection of Westlake and Ingalls being currently a two-way stop. There's a little bit of confusion that sometimes happens at that intersection. The following intersection as you go east is a four-way. So as we looked at it, Jason and his staff looked at it, monitored it, and agree with the concerns that have been raised. Typically, in this case, we would issue or do a temporary order. We decided to skip that and just come to you with a permanent traffic control order so we can get this, get these signs installed, as well as the Buckley Avenue. I think this one could be one of our last yield signs that we have in the city, and we didn't even realize it was a yield sign till recently. So this would remove a yield sign and put a stop at Buckley as it should be. So these orders are in front of you for your consideration tonight.
Can I ask the police report, how many accidents were on this corner that you want a four-way at?
Yeah, I don't have that data, Mayor.
I think that that's pertinent. People calling in just complaining because there's no accidents there. I'm not sure. I've driven that thing a million times and I'm not sure what the concern is. I'm just not sure, especially with the vehicles coming down Ingalls. I'm just concerned about it a little.
Yeah,
bit.
and that's certainly the purview of city council. If you do
Yeah.
not want to proceed, that's certainly,
How do you feel about it?
I mean, based on Jason's review and his staff's review, he thinks it's needed and warranted, which is why it's in front of you from our standpoint.
Okay, Ms. Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree with the uniformity of the intersections four-way stop because it does feel awkward on Ingalls to not have a four-way stop. And I think I err on the side of caution and I stop regardless. And so I think in terms of continuation, like if the one to the east, which would be closest to us, which would be Water Street, right? I think, Water Ave, that would be a four-way stop. It just makes sense for the next one to happen. And also in regards to Buckley Avenue, in Ward 4, previously the railroad tracks on Washington were like a traffic deterrent to slow people down. And when those were removed because of the loss at Lumber Square development, now I really see the need for a stop sign there. And then with Elder Piper's development as well, like there's a lot of activity in the neighborhood now. And so that really makes sense for that stop sign to replace the yield sign. So I'm totally in support of both of them.
One correction, and that's Water Street does not have a three-way or a four-way stop.
It's not,
It's a
the
single-
next
it's a
street up here.
single.
It-
Water Street is right back here.
Oh, it's Walktel. Sorry, I'm sorry. I apologize. Walktel and Westlake, excuse me.
Okay,
Thanks.
anybody else? Mr. Moore?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Sure.
I'm happy to second the motion, Mayor.
A motion from Mr. Moore, second from Ms. Walker. Any other discussion? Mr. Shields?
Just a comment that I think, I'm supportive of this, but as we think about traffic congestion and as we think about future policy about how we are going to modify roads, I want to encourage this body to consider traffic calming, traffic circles and versus and opposed to four-way stops. I know there's a lot of pushback to that idea, but they do keep traffic moving better and the studies show. So mini traffic circles is something that I hope we'll continue to consider when evaluating four-way stops.
Yeah, I personally think that, I gotta get my roads, Clarion River Road and Standish, that could be a roundabout there because that is on kind of an a skewed, intersection that is sometimes I find challenging. But yeah, that's a good point.
I had rumors that they were looking at a traffic circle on Mitchell and Division.
Oh, the county?
Is that right?
In Bear
County?
Creek Township.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's being discussed, yes.
yes, that's being discussed. Okay, I'll go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Traub,
Nay.
Shields,
Aye.
Murphy.
No. Motion passes 3-2. Going to the next subject, the one I just read for all of you. It's a adoption of a proposed resolution that would identify November 17th for public hearing to receive comments regarding the special assessment role recommended
No,
by
no,
the
no.
DOE.
Wait. We're at
Go
B.
down to
We're at B.
Oh, I'm behind, sorry.
Council.
Adoption of the proposed resolution approving the 2026 city council meeting schedule and convention dates. Ms. Beck. Is it?
Sure. Yep, I can do it.
I wasn't sure who you had.
No, that's okay. I mean, if you want to do it, Shane, it doesn't matter.
Work together.
So yes, we drafted this draft schedule for you guys to consider. Obviously, city charter says it's the first and third Mondays of each month, with the exception over several years, whether it be holidays. Petoskey spring break is always considered if that's what you want to consider. You guys have been grateful of rescheduling the first meetings before an election, so thank you. I am gracious for that. But so some of those that you see, so Monday, April 6th, that is a typical first Monday in April. That is the last day of Petoskey Public Schools spring break. Historically, that has been canceled or just not scheduled. That's up to you guys. The other three that show Thursdays are election dates for 2026. So typically we've had a special in May, usually the school system, ISD, the August primary, November general. And then I had considered adding, you guys, if you are comfortable this early, setting the ward and city convention dates rather than waiting till the spring. And then if we recall this year, we didn't wait, but we scheduled them, but then facilities at the schools weren't available. So if we have the dates, I can check now or at least get on their schedule.
Counselor, are you good with this? If you are, I need a motion. Mr. Moore.
So the only one I'd ask we not go forward with is Monday, April 6th. That is the last day of spring break. I'll be gone. That's not the reason. I just feel like a lot of people are not here. And so I don't think we should go forward with that particular date. I understand that Thursdays, I think that's a good idea to help out with our staff needing to be at elections. And I would say yes, if we can schedule the ward and city conventions now, that'd give people plenty of notice. Thank you.
I'm personally fine with the schedule the way it's posted, however. Ms. Walker.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Demore in regards to the last day of spring break on Monday, April the 6th. And I also just wanted to make a note that I'm grateful that we have planned the dates, or hopefully we'll approve the dates for the city and ward conventions. That we also at that time have the date for the picnic set so that we can encourage people to attend the picnics, and knowing that at the ward conventions would be really helpful. Thank you.
Well, I think you could, Mr. Knobtrop.
I'm trying to get a little clarification, just because it's spring break, why do we cancel that? I mean, I'm not in, I'm available. I'm just trying to understand what's the reason to cancel it, just because school's out.
I'm available as well.
Well, for me, it's about transparency. I don't like to schedule a meeting when I know a lot of Petoskey's not going to be here. So that's my thinking. I prefer that we schedule a meeting not during a time when, I don't know the percentages of people that leave town, but I think it's a lot of people, so.
If I could add, I mean, and then, you know, I'm not a big deal about this, but a good part of my ward isn't here in the wintertime. And they're, you know, but I'm still here.
It's a small part of your ward, 200. 200 out,
They all voted for me.
200 out, 200 out of 1,300 is a small portion.
Lincoln School and.
I know.
I have never heard anybody come, I don't know. I'm fine with whatever you want to do. I just feel we keep moving these meetings instead of keeping them on Mondays, and I can understand for the election. I can understand for September Labor Day, but I just don't see any more people showing up for April 6th than they would any other day of that week that we had a meeting, and they still have the opportunity to contact board, city council, or we do not usually schedule stuff that is a major decision-making thing if we felt that the public needed to be a participant of it or attendance, but that's up to the council. Council. Turn it back to you.
Your motion or?
I haven't a motion yet.
I would motion to keep it as presented.
Do I have a second? I'm gonna second it to get it for discussion and for a vote. Any other discussion, council?
You
Mr.
have-
Shields?
you asked for public comments, so Charlie can weigh in.
Yeah.
If you so choose.
I so choose, but I'm waiting to see if council has any comments first. Public wish to weigh in on this? Mr. Munson, come on up to the mic, sorry.
So are we allowed to comment on these new business items? Like I am, like now? Because the first one already passed and you didn't ask for discussion.
Which was,
The stop signs.
go ahead.
Okay. Washington and
Buckley.
Buckley. I go through there all the time. Why there is a yield sign there, I have no idea. There's nothing to yield to. If there's a stop sign there, there's nothing to stop for. That yield sign would be better purposed, being painted white and written on it, "This is not a sign." Thank you.
I apologize for not calling on you. I didn't realize you had an interest in speaking. I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Knocktrab,
Aye.
Murphy,
Yes.
Shields,
Yes.
Walker,
No.
Demore.
No,
Motion passes 3-2. Next. Discussion on Little Traverse Wheelway Slope Restoration Project. Turn it over to City Manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting, you had mentioned that this would be back on for further discussion. We had a lot of folks out at the last meeting, a lot of good feedback and input on that project. So this is back on for council's continued discussion. Again, this is just a discussion item. There's no action being asked of council. Another opportunity to provide some input and feedback. I believe part of my role as city manager is to provide council with ideas, options for consideration. And so, you know, as we've talked about this project for a very long time, we knew that it was going to be a very expensive project. We knew that constructability was going to be challenging. So we always had in the back of our mind, is there another option to meander a trail along the highway? I know we've talked about a number of options about a trail along the highway. This would be staying on the north side, meandering a trail within MDOT right of way, which is fairly wide through there. We would certainly get off of the road significantly more than we are currently on the apron or shoulder. So I'm just presenting this as an option. I want to spend my time following the direction of city council. So if the direction of city council is to continue with the wheelway as it currently is positioned, then certainly that's what we will do. If there's a desire to look at an option that may be able to get us a safe route and a much less expensive route reconnected to the wheelway after the failed sections, then certainly we can do that fairly reasonably and fairly quickly. At this point, I just want to kind of get some direction on how you would like us to spend our time. Certainly, we don't have to make any decisions now. We can have more workshop opportunities to further discuss this, but at this point, we have put money in the 26 budget to further explore. I'll call it a bypass, if you will, kind of going around the failed sections along the highway. But again, I don't want to spend time on something that would not be ultimately supported by city council, and certainly I want to be responsive to the budget constraints as well. So just trying to open the floor up, I guess, for city council for additional comments, feedback, and continue the discussion again.
Okay, I have my own opinions, but I think what I'll do is turn it over to you guys because you're 4/5 of the council. Does somebody wish to speak to this? Mr. Knobtrop, you had your hand up first.
This is such a difficult thing. And I, on this subject, I think I had 4 or 5 calls on this, believe it or not, and it ranged all over the place. From, don't give up on the most beautiful section of a trail, and the guy quoted me and said it's probably one of the best sections of all the Great Lakes for a bike trail. Don't give up on it. I had someone call me last night that I thought was a doctor while I was eating dinner, and it wasn't. It was somebody that lives here, and she made some suggestions that kind of are aligned with me. That that this is not just the city of Petoskey, given the magnitude of the dollars, that it is more of a regional approach, and we should consider a citizens-led initiative. And I kind of thought that would be, if we're going to get funding from federal, state, county area, a citizen-led group would be a heck of a lot better, a higher probability of making that happen than us as a council. I don't think it's the council's job to lead this anymore. We've kind of got it going. I forget you're the guy with you. Get your name. Yeah. I think you made the presentation at the last one I thought was wonderful, and why not you lead this? Because you had some private funds in that, kind of made comments about private funds. I mean, this is a passionate subject that a lot of people have an interest in. If that is just simply not possible, and the money is not going to be able to be done, then I would like to support an alternative too, because just sitting around waiting for 20 years to come up with $20 million doesn't make any sense. My last comment was from another person that was here for the open house. He's spent his whole career on point experience as the engineer, similar to the guy that made the presentation. And he made a couple of interesting comments I think we ought to at least consider. And again, he spent his whole career on point on this kind of work. And he talked to the engineer, he walked through all the drawings, and his comments were that the drawings really are not really complete. You would kind of expect them to be a little bit more. And his life experience was the way that the estimate was made is not real life way estimates are done in real life, that an engineer's approach is a lot different than a real estimator's approach. And he told me, you got to expect a 30% plus or minus difference on it. And I said, well, is it going to be probably over? And he said, it could just as easily be 30% less. And he gave me one example. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm just kind of relaying what this guy took the time to talk to me about. Is the shipping of all the rocks in, or the stone in, and his suggestion and what he saw done somewhere else was you would actually fabricate a special design barge that would work here and present it. And for the cost of that versus all the trucking and all the disruption of the trucking, you fabricate the barge, and then at the end of it, you just sell it. And you don't keep it. And his contention is that didn't seem to be an option that was really explored, but a true estimator would be exploring the daylights out of that. So that was the other comment. So those are my comments. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I respectfully, Shane, I would not support this spending money on another study and looking for plans up on the highway. I think I'm hearing loud and clear. We want to keep the trail down where it was, and start the fundraising for that. Start the efforts to make that happen, while also looking at other alternatives of value engineering, but all focused down there along the waterway. So I think I appreciate bringing this forward, but I think we should punt that, and maybe down the road, if we need to bring it back, we could. But I'm really optimistic that there will be community support that is locally, that is regionally, that is potentially the state. I don't think that we can look at our very current state support system now and say that won't change in the future. I really encourage us to kind of kick off the fundraising, whether that is, city whatever role our city has in that. I'm open to that. I do think our nonprofit partner, the Trails Council, I would encourage them to take the lead, and speaking with Brent, I know they're itching to do so. So that's where I would land right now.
Thank you. Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. So I absolutely agree with Joe in regards to a regional citizen-led initiative. I believe the civic engagement we saw at our meeting with the full house really demonstrates that this is a passionate project. And I think it's the responsibility of no longer of the city of Petoskey, because we have really spearheaded all the efforts. And like I had mentioned in the last meeting, it felt like we were going at it very much alone. But I think it's our responsibility. The Emmett County Master Plan is underway. Those of us that have contributed and went to the open houses, it is part of the master plan. That's been talked about in that capacity. So our elected officials, which would be David White on the Resort Township end of, the west end of Petoskey, as well as Bay Harbor, and then Matt Kuntz, both of our county commissioners. I think that we could bring voice to the county commissioners, and that's the responsibility of anybody that lives in Emmett County to go and speak to our elected body there and tell them that this is a priority. It's a regional economic driver. It's not just the city of Petoskey or Resort Township. So I really believe in that. I also believe that we have a responsibility to the safety of the existent bike path right now. So what that involves, we've already done a study up above, which included a tunnel project at one point. I think really understanding where people are being routed now coming up through Magnus Park and then how the bike path kind of connects there and goes about until it can connect safely to the existing wheelway. I think there needs to be a better understanding of exactly what that looks like right now because that path in Magnus Park is very, very steep. It's hard to even walk it. And so I don't know if like, people can actually ride their bikes up or down that very steep path. I think you probably have to walk it right now. So I'm not seeing the architectural renderings to the far east of what that looks like. So it's a little bit of a disconnect for me. But that being said, I do believe we have a responsibility to the safety of what exists now. And I believe we can go a parallel path of making this existent rerouting safe until, in the interim, until a group of, and I really believe that considering forming a subcommittee led by regional partners, the Trails Council, amongst many other folks, I believe that $20 million, if that's really, it's not also the end all be all. I think there might be other ways to look into dredging out in the bay. There's a dredging operation in Harbor Springs. They dredge the Harbor Springs Marina and the bay constantly. So let's look into those other options besides bringing how many hundreds and thousands of tons of stone from Ontario, Canada. So I think that there's plenty to look at in this $20 million project with a 30% contingency, as you just spoke of, Joe. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Or
So I largely agree with Ms. Walker and Mr. Nachtraub. I also think it's interesting because I don't think these two efforts are mutually exclusive. I think both can move forward. I agree that our top responsibility is public safety. And the other is to be good stewards of finite public funds. I agree that the city's largely been the governmental tip of the spear in this endeavor. And I also agree that I think this big project, whether it's 20 or whatever that number is, it's a big number, should be a community-driven effort. I think it's really important, not only because the city's been the tip of the spear, but because I think it's a more effective way to produce the desired outcome. There are challenges to this restoration in addition to money. Those include, just as a few, maintaining the existing easements, achieving additional easements. By the looks of it, it would require the shutdown of Magnus Park for 2 years because that's going to be the place where all the heavy equipment is and any associated loss of use, loss of revenue. And then if it is a roadway undertaking, approximately 100,000 tons of rock transported by truck, if that's the approach. So having said all that, because largely of public safety, I feel like we as the city can't wait for the outcome of this bigger project and that these efforts can run in tandem so that as we're working on this approach that is not as magnificent as the Magnificent Mile was, that hopefully the other moves forward as a possibility as well. But if it doesn't, we won't have lost more time in trying to provide a safe route for people to traverse. So thank you.
Well, I'll give you a couple of my summaries of this. It's $20 million right now. That's if it was built today, right now. We know that the cost with tariffs, we know the cost of inflation. We're talking this project being at least 2 to 3 years before it ever, 2 years to 3 years before it ever really picks up a stone. I have concerns about the Magnus Park being shut down. And is it possible to take it by barge? He didn't seem to think so because of the shallowness. I guess that would have to go through the state and the feds to get a permit to dredge, to build a dock. There's a lot of things that are going to be more costly than what this cost is right now. We also have issues with the existing easement. Rory discussed needing to quite likely widen it and ask for more easement. We have people that own property there. I don't know if this is legal to say this. Okay. Well, I can say this, that if we want to widen it, we have a 20-foot easement right now. We would have to go back to all of those owners and get approval for widening of the easement. The trucking concerns me. I don't care if it's 1,000 semis coming down from wherever, going down right out here, driving out through that area is really a lot. I think the county we're not going to get a lot of funds from the county, I do not believe at this point. They are dealing with, and I discussed this with the county and mentioned it, and I was told they have a $24 million PFAS bill right now that they are dealing with themselves, coming up with 24 million to take care of PFAS. That's a heck of a lot of money. I don't think we're going to get a lot from them on this project. What I do believe is we should, and I agree with Mr. Moore, we had talked about this. We can do it two ways. We can be working on this Miracle Mile, Grand Mile. We can also be looking at the same point, a cheaper route, I believe, up above, which will enable people to get off the bike path, off the shoulder of the road. And I have walked this numerous times with staff, with some people, other people here. I believe you should take a look at that walk, that possibly utilizing the upper. There is areas on that upper area where you can actually bump it out and you could have a grand view of the bay, of the water. I think we need to do both, but I think what we need, and I agree with you, Mr. Knobtop, I'm hoping that Brett, and I have talked with Brett, he'll be getting up here in a minute to speak. I have talked to Brett, and I feel that would be the way of going with this to get the public input is to get him involved in their group, and anybody else that wants to volunteer and work with the Trails Council and any other groups that want to join in to come up with some public funding. I want to tell you that I checked with our treasurer, and if let's say that it's 25 million and 15 million is collected, okay? 15 million is collected, and so now we have a bill for 10 million. 20-year bond is going to cost us each year $722,000. I have a concern about we would have to pay, but where are we going to get $722,000 each year to pay off that bond? And that's for 20 years. You can do the 30-year bond, and that's just over $500,000. I have a real concern about going into general funds to pay for this, or any funds really. So I'm fearful of getting the city into financial debt on this. I would hope, I think it would be great if we could have somebody come forward or people come forward with 20, 25 million and say, here, I'm going to cover this. I'm going to say, let's go and do the trail. But in the meantime, I think we should be also, we put this up there to be worked on, but we also pull up what is an alternative for the safety and for the less cost to get this going. I think we can work with both pieces at the same time, just to make sure that if we don't collect 25 million from the public, we at least have enough to go for safety. That's it. I now open this up for public to make comments if they wish. Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to just reiterate that I'm not proposing that the city expend general funds or do a millage. I really think that we lean on the private funds and we initiate that and we encourage that and we welcome that. And I know you're saying that as well, but I feel like let's not waste money. This is wasting money. There's no appetite for that. I think that the safety issue, I said this when we first.
What's wasting money?
The $100,000 right now, for doing more plans for that. That's what I'm talking about in the cap improvement plan.
I see.
So that's what I was referencing. I think that, I've said from the beginning that, those wimpy little bollards are shameful, and we should have more heavy bollards there. And I know that's a MDOT issue, but I think if the city is going to want, I think the city should push MDOT to have those for the meantime. But we should, as you all have said, that, we've done our part. So now let's not try to muddle the waters by doing this right now, when I'm hearing clearly we want to make it happen down by the waterway.
I mean, we have money in 26 capital budget.
Yeah, so thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Well, just following up on Councilman Shields' comments, does the city manager want to give us any clarity on money amounts to accomplish this? I mean, I understand where we are right now, but I didn't see, I saw $50,000 as a potential number in the capital improvement plan, but
Yeah, that's,
it's been done, so I don't know.
that- there is 50,000 in the capital, but that's not to construct a trail. That's just to kind of analyze it and put some drawings together to get us there. Construction wise, there's really not much to this. I'm talking about from the Epler curve to the connection to East Park. We're not talking about a large investment. And we can continue to work on the other path as well. I thought what I heard was concerns about safety and cost, and I think this potentially can assist that effort. The mayor, I think, hit it correctly. Even if we had $20 million today, it's still a significant undertaking. It's still probably a 2-year project if we had funding in line to do that project. So that's another 2 years of people riding on the shoulder of the highway. So I do think there's value in doing this project in concert or in addition to, the private sector kind of stepping up and assisting with the larger project potentially. But there are other concerns with the wheelway, and I certainly understand that. This doesn't address the curve, the narrowing of that section at Epler. That's going to require some sort of a structure to span that. I understand that. I've heard concerns about the sidewalk in front of the cemetery, that's still a concern that people, the concern about Magnus Park. So this project doesn't really address that, but we could potentially go back and try to work with the church, work with private property owners to potentially get more additional property to expand that sidewalk area. But we are going to be constricted a little bit with the cemetery, and
Well-
there's not a lot of room there.
Because
But
there's grade.
But there is, we were out and measured out at the cemetery, and there are several feet into the cemetery that are owned by the state that the sidewalk could be widened by 2 or 3 feet at least. So
we've
that-
even talked to the cemetery, well,
that's state property, that is.
no, I'm not talking even about that. I'm talking about the path going through the cemetery, kind of redoing their roads essentially to make it a multimodal pathway where you can have the bikes go on it and as well as the cars. Obviously, that would have to be all discussed with the leadership of the church, but potentially you could get off the sidewalk and potentially go through so there's a lot of things to explore, but getting the traveling, getting the wheelway or getting the folks off of the highway, what I heard was the emphasis, at least at this point. And this would be something that we could quickly work on and get done and try to at least check that box while we're exploring the bigger project.
There's also availability of talking to the hospital where you come up from Magnus Park.
Yep.
It's owned by the hospital, not utilized parking lot at all.
There's
Where
all
the-
the construction.
Huh? Pardon? You have something to say, Miss?
No,
Or
yeah,
interrupt
no,
me?
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right with that McLaren parking lot. It's absolutely vacant, a non-pervious surface, and it was constructed for the intention of the construction project, and it's,
Get your mic on, Ms.
Just turned it on.
thank you. Yeah, I would consider, I would assume there's some, issues with like a lot of private property intersecting over a proposed trail, so, I would hope that McLaren would be open to that, because even on election day, like seeing that vast parking lot, yeah, I would hope that that would be a possibility as well, if that was part of it.
Anything else? Mr. Knobtrop?
I want to get a little clarification on what Shane said. Because I think, as you know, I think public safety is gigantically important. And this 20 million, whatever that is going to take time. And if we have a stopgap option that is described sort of like you said, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me something reasonable, but I just clarify a question when you said, Shane, $50,000 plan, and then you said you didn't think it would take that much. I mean, are we talking about a few $100,000 or $1 million? And is that something we could do yet this year?
No.
What's your thinking on this, however it would work out in terms of a ballpark?
Yeah, I'd hate to put a number to it, but I would say construction wise, if you kind of put on your, we budget $150,000 a year to resurface the wheelway, and we get not even a mile, half a mile. So we'd be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this project, certainly, but it would not be millions. So certainly, I think that's something that we could continue to work on. Timing wise, certainly, we're not talking 2 to 3 years. We're probably talking, we should be able to make good progress and have something done if we had the green light to do this and things lined up by the end of 26, we would have this in place.
Mr. Shields.
That also will require future maintenance. So it's not just the construction cost of putting it in, laying down asphalt, but there we have more obligation to future maintenance and management of that. Is it necessary? Is that the right focus and effort right now?
Anyone else wish to speak? I challenge you guys to go out and take a look at that other location. I love going down where the trail was. I think it's great. I've walked my elderly mother there for miles and spent many an hour there sitting on the bench down there. But as beautiful as that is, it's about money. I think Mr. Boland's going to get up and he's going to talk about he feels that with efforts, they can come up with that money. And I hope they do. But I think at the same point, and it's not saying don't do this, it's just saying we need to make sure we're moving forward with something on this also at the same time. So anybody in the public wish to speak to council at this time?
It's already on. Charlie Wilmot, 1128 Valley View. I believe two things can be true at the same time. I do believe that the Epler curve in particular is a public safety hazard, and it should be dealt with immediately. And I do think that a structure, as Shane had described, on the outside of the guardrails across that section is very practical, very doable, and won't be that expensive to either build or maintain in the long term. And whether you reroute coming up behind McLaren, the truth of the matter is I've walked the site a couple of times myself, and with a structure across the Epler swale, as I call it, and the section of state property between the swale and the old Quiet Moose, that will be exceptional in terms of views. There are already some incredible views from that area. And with a viewing platform in that area, in addition to the bridge or structure, however you want to call it, at the swale, this could be an exceptional alternative. At the same time that we continue to make an effort to restore the existing bike path. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to council at this time? Mr. Boland, come on down. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's literally my job, but you're welcome.
It's more than your job, it's your passion in your heart.
It is my avocation. Yes. So first of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to Shane. Sorry you have to not only work on your birthday, but it's a council meeting night. You should give him tomorrow off. Mayor Murphy, members of council, thank you.
He's taking it tomorrow off.
Oh, that was nice of you. That was good of you. Thank you. So, no, I mean, obviously there's a lot to respond to here and, I drafted a letter for you guys tonight. And I think the conversation has maybe, means that some edits need to happen to this before it comes along. But, I'll try to, take on several of the things that have come up here tonight. So first of all, I just have to say that overall, I love what I'm hearing from all of you. You're not afraid of doing big things. We've done big things in Petoskey for decades, right? Like this is a beautiful city because previous mayors and councils have chosen to do big things. So I like that we still have a vision that, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think that that's terrific. For a couple specific things I would say, just first of all, maybe about the alternate route. I would just say that, respectfully, we looked at that before. We tried to see if there was a cheap and easy solution to do an alternate route up on 31. And it took over a year and we found out it was going to be $7.5 million. So it was neither cheap nor easy, right? And I don't think this version of it is going to be cheap or easy either. So at that time, we considered the north side of US 31 and ruled it out for a number of practical reasons and related to the properties that are there, related to the need for a structure on the Epler curve, et cetera. So we looked into the south side of the road that necessitated a crossing down towards the hospital parking lot area where you're talking about, and another crossing back over at East Park, which, the county and MDOT didn't want to do a surface crossing, even a signaled one. So then they asked for a tunnel, which guess what? That killed it because it had cost $2.5 million to dig a tunnel under the road there, right? And so at the end of that study, we said, well, if this is going to cost $7.5 million and this is a trail nobody really wants, right? We thought, well, this would be great for Resort Township. It'll connect up all these businesses through here. They didn't really particularly care. And so that was literally that decision was like, well, let's go look and see what it would take to put the trail back where it should be. And that was how we got to where we are now with this engineering study. So, I am a little apprehensive about going, we looked at US 31, said this doesn't work, too expensive, went back down to the bluff and said, let's find the most sustainable, resilient, environmentally sensitive solution, and then got the price tag back and didn't like that. And now are we going to flop back up to the bluff again? And now, we can fit it on the north side when 3 years ago we didn't think we could. I'm not saying it's impossible by any means. I just think it's not as simple as it sounds, in my professional opinion, to try to fit something in on the north side. So, would it be useful to have that? Absolutely. Do we need to be concerned about improving safety? Absolutely. As you know, Derek, the only reason that those bollards are out there is because the city, badgered MDOT about it for years to get at least that done. And that's all we've been able to get done. So, it absolutely needs to be addressed. But, if you started both of these things at the same time, they would likely resolve at around the same time, because I'm just telling you, everything takes twice as long as you think it should. And so it's just, I guess I'm not opposed per se to the city pursuing the alternate route, but I maybe want to throw a little cold water on it, that it's just I don't think it's a panacea, easy solution here. So I just wanted to say that. I do think that in terms of the Baird study, $20 million is a lot of money. The city doesn't have it. I don't have it. But there's people around here that do have it. And a number of those people have been calling me in the last few weeks saying, do we finally have a plan? Is it go time? Is it time to write the checks, right? And so that's out there. And I think it's very possible that we can lead a public fundraising effort to raise a significant portion of the cost here. I have a lot of confidence in that. One thing I do think is worth considering is, again, the way that as you've said in lots of different ways, what was in that Baird engineering study, you got back what you asked for, which was a very specific set of things, right? What's the most environmentally sustainable solution? They made very conservative assumptions, et cetera. So I think that it's very reasonable to go back to them and say, okay, now that you've done all of this work, you've created your models, you've done the field work, now change some of the assumptions and give us some different scenarios, right? Okay, so you've presented us the $20 million version of your solution. What's the $10 million version of your solution, right? Or you've presented us the 90,000 tons of rock solution. What's the 30,000 ton of rock solution? That should be fairly straightforward for them to do based on what they've created to this point. I've let, the city manager, the mayor, and others of you know, we have money. We, the Trails Council, have money we would be willing to put up with the city to go back to Baird and say, hey, how much would it cost for you to do an addendum to the report that came up with some different options? And, whatever, we'll split that cost with you guys. We have money, we'll put that on the table to get that done so that you have more information as we make these kinds of decisions. But I just think that, overall, this is it is really possible. And typically the way that trails have gotten done historically is like, first you get a big chunk of federal money, then you get some state money, and then you figure out like what your local and private money is, and then you build the trail, okay? But there's no reason that process can't work in the other direction, right? We can start with a big public fundraising campaign, and then the next time we call Senator DeMoose or Representative Fairbairn and say, hey, guess what? We've got $5 million on the table or $10 million on the table. That makes their jobs easier, right? And then when we turn around and go to our federal partners down the road and, it can work the other way. So I don't think there's anything wrong with leading on that. But the one thing I'd say is, I said this on the 20th, and I just want to say it again today, the city has done the right thing by leading to get us to this point. Nobody expects you to carry this all the rest of the way, right? It was trying to get the county and MDOT and all of these other entities to come along every step of the way was slowing things down a lot. Those of you that have been around that long will remember that. And so the city said, all right, well, we're going to go figure something out and then come back. So that's the point we're at now, right? The Trails Council, other partners coming back together to figure out how to do this. And so, we still have time to kind of get through those those considerations. And I guess what I'll say is you don't have to decide to do anything tonight or any other night. But what the city needs to do is if I raise $20 million, I could not hire the contractors to go and do the work, right? The city has to be part of this project. The city has to be a willing partner. So that's the big thing, is that, we need the city to be in it, but that doesn't mean you need to lead it or carry the whole thing, right? So that's kind of the message I wanted to leave you with tonight, is that, we're willing to carry our share of the fundraising, public outreach, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you guys are the ones that have to build the trail. And if you're not willing to do it, you'd have me arrested if I sent trucks out there on my own. So that's just the reality of it. And I think we all understand that, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that for the record, that, we still need the city to be at the table while, maybe we take the lead for a little while in exploring some of these funding options going forward. So I think I hit everything I wanted to that y'all have brought up.
I think you've heard that we walk this trail. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's
You'll-
not that we're.
You'll build it if I get the money.
Hmm?
You'll build it if I get the money?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that
that's
right?
good. I'm glad we're in agreement.
At least for me, I feel pretty strong about it. I think
Yeah.
your approach is the most logical approach and will get the most money and will force either politically or otherwise other partners to come into this. And
Right.
my whole thing though is I hear a complete difference in what you said on the alternative on the north side from what Shane and John has been saying. And specifically, I'm all about not waiting another 4 or 5 years. I'm all about the safety, and I want a little bit more traffic to get over to East Park and over this side. And if there is a way to do this for, I understand you say it's a waste of money. We spent $800,000 or so on this one. And if we can spend $50,000 on something to have a plan that could actually work for $1 million, that's a lot different than 7.5 million.
So
That there are a lot of drawbacks to going on the north side of the highway.
yeah, so
This council, the north side was never, I did not believe, I've been here for 12 years on this council. I did not believe that that was a discussion. The discussion was that it was gonna go on the south side of the highway with an underpass going a tunnel, and it was 7.5, it was like,
So at the beginning of that process, we looked at, is it feasible to do it on the north side? And the answer was no, which is why all the time and effort was spent on the south side, right? Like the north side was discounted at the beginning of the process.
educate me why. I'm really serious. I'm not being funny or, I wanna know why was the north side not doable?
Yeah, well, so I mean, again, some of this is, came from the consultants that were hired on this, but some of it was just looking at like the actual geometry of the space that's available with the road right of way, the offset from the road right of way, the need for, if you think like basically where you would if you take those things into account, the offset from the road right of way needs to be a certain distance, 5 feet. And then you need to have a 10-foot wide trail with 2 feet of clearance on either side, right? So now you're talking about like 19 feet to the edge, and that space, that amount of space is not available continuously throughout that corridor. And then also, if you look at that width, again, 14 feet of width, and where that would likely end up to get it off of the road shoulder, that's gonna go right through like the signs for half the businesses up there. It's gonna go through like where the electric poles are, where there's like other infrastructure, like the phone boxes. So look, like if you have enough money, where there's a will, there's a way, like you can build it. We could build it on the north side, but the assessment that was done at the outset of that process was that it was unlikely to be cost effective because of all these challenges. Including building the structure around the Epler curve, including that like the trail up from Magnus Park is non-compliant with any kind of like modern trail standards. It's too steep. The sidewalk doesn't work. The cemetery issue, right? It's like none of these things are insurmountable, but when you added them all up on the north side, it was like, this seems like it's going to not be feasible, which is why we looked at the south side. What really killed the south side was deciding that it had to be a tunnel coming back across. So it could have been a $3 or $4 million project, and that made it a $7.5 million project.
I think the big drawback with the city was crossing Epler, crossing Cemetery, crossing all the driveways and through there.
Right.
That's what I took as from the public. That was the reason of that was not gonna work along with the tunnel underneath, but.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, if you think about the sections of the wheelway, like outside the city, going around towards Harbor Springs, where there are lots of crossings of residential and business driveways, that's everybody's least favorite section of the trail by far.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why, that's another reason why people want the original trail back, because you don't have that issue. So that is a set of concerns, right? So.
But but when you go across from Hosky Sands, how wide is that trail?
Well, that's, I mean, that's completely non-compliant. We've been trying to
Understand,
get
but
that
what happens
redone.
if we have non-compliant, if we have a 6 rather than a 10-foot trail?
So here, so you can, so,
Help me out, educate us.
no, I'll tell you, is that the way that that trail is built around Tosky Sands could add, like between our office and like Tosky Sands, that couldn't be done today, right? The current standard is the 10-foot wide separated trail with 2 feet of shoulders on either side. So if you want to go and build a new trail, that is what MDOT is going to tell you need to do. And part of the original study of the US 31 was talking to MDOT about their appetite for approving a non-compliant trail, and they did not have at that time much of an appetite for it. to say, well, what if we just did 6 feet? Because that's all that's available in the physical space. And it didn't seem like something they were willing to do, which was why then we kicked it to the south side and really explored that. So, I'm not saying that the north side is infeasible. I just think that it's not as simple as it sounds. And I think if, I started today raising the $20 million and you guys at the same time started like getting the plans together, raising the money, getting the permits, I don't think that the alternate route would happen necessarily that much sooner.
What is your timeline? How long should the city wait for this $20 million?
I mean, I'm not telling you that the city should wait. I'm just saying like, understand that there's going to be challenges with, it's not like, okay, like, well, we'll we'll spend $50,000 and then that'll give us a plan for a $500,000 trail.
No.
Like honestly, a 10-foot wide ribbon of asphalt that's over a mile long is more than $1 million. So it's like just the asphalt costs that much money, let alone everything else. So.
Mr. Moore, you have a question?
So it's more of a statement, but I just want to, in the spirit of full transparency, say to you that when you start talking about value engineering on this project, my antenna really go up because we're looking at an area where that bluff has collapsed 3 times. So I'm not an engineer, but it concerns me, the dialogue about value engineering. I'd have to see what that means in terms of a risk-benefit analysis.
I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody up here is who said value engineering on the 20th, but I'm just telling you that like, I think, like I understand your remarks and I agree with you, but I just think if you really look at some of the like assumptions they built into their models, they're very conservative. And so, nobody wants to build something that's going to collapse in 10 years. But at the same time, like, I don't think it's possible to design something that's going to last forever, right? Like, that's just not possible because we don't know what's going to happen in the future with lake levels, climate change, earthquakes, other acts of God. I mean, like, we don't know. So the question then again becomes like, what is your risk tolerance, right? And I think Councilmember Shields has said this before, if you could do a solution that costs half as much and lasts half as long, you've kind of made the same investment, right? So if this is guaranteed to last 50 years, if you spend $20 million, well, if you spend $10 million and it lasts 25 years, you've kind of made the same investment. So I just, I hear and understand your comment. I don't want to put anything back that's going to collapse either, but I just think that like, we need to talk through the engineering of it and say, okay, are there like checkpoints down from this like platinum thing you've put out there that we could at least consider as options? So.
Thank you. Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the discussion. I just wanted to address Councilmember Naughtrup. You weren't here in the discussion, and when I say waste of money, that's a little tongue in cheek. I mean, I think potentially, again, if there could be a solution there, then maybe I could get behind that. But I was part of this discussion before when, yes, we did look at that. I mean, I remember when the costs that are going up in that south end. Like, what about the north end? So we discussed that, and I appreciate Brent saying that it was that, the 10-foot width. So maybe there's new exemptions now, but when I say waste of money, it's like, well, we've been there. So like, let's not rehash old news and let's do what where we're at now. That's why I want to clarify about waste of money. That was maybe wrong word to use.
Yeah, well, and again, just from my perspective, like I don't disagree with, Shane or the mayor saying that it could be like a faster, cheaper option compared to the $20 million. It could be. I'm just saying like we've been through this exercise and saw already it was more complicated than we thought it would be. So I just wanted to say that. It doesn't mean it's not worth doing. It's just be realistic about what, the potential outcome is.
Mayor, can I ask?
Mr. Naughtrup, please.
You referred to, and I'm trying to beat this to death a little bit because you had a few comments in there that said, well, the waiver didn't seem to have an interest, and I would at least question, can we re-explore that? But you really referred to other consultants. Was there a report that was actually written that we could read that says the north side isn't practical, or is this just a verbal thing that they had with you?
I mean, there was a detailed report given to the council on
On
the
north
engine.
side?
It wasn't on the north side. It was for the studying the, you know, and there's probably like, if I remember right, there's a short section of that that says why the north side wasn't seriously explored. And then the rest of the report is about all the work that was done.
Okay,
Um,
so there
on
is
the south
something in
side.
that report that would give us a little bit more detail specifically why the north side didn't work.
Paragraph or something like that, very small.
Yeah, maybe something like that. And I mean, I'll be honest, like, and I am not privy to whatever conversations the city manager, the other staff might have had with MDOT or anybody else that like maybe has indicated that there is more of an opportunity now than there was 3 years ago. I'm just saying that like we did this exercise and it was complicated. And so it's likely to be complicated this time around too.
Anyone else? Ms. Walker?
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate your, the optimism, but also the, kind of like the historical reminder and also like how normally trails are funded. Like you start from federal and work your way down or, and vice versa. And you're giving hope for that we can really, there's, optimism to fundraise in a fund and friend raise in a variety of different ways. And also I just want to remind us that like Eagle is working, the Eagle and the DNR, Energy, Great Lakes and Environment is working on coastal resiliency plans for 2027 budgetary cycle. Like they've already gone through the 2026 projects that they're probably going to fund for the coastal resiliency grants. And that appropriations were told to us that for 2026, that's not going to be an option, but that doesn't mean that 2027 and 2028 appropriations in the
Right.
state are not available to us as we continue down a path of fund and friend raising to gain some momentum for
Right.
some capital and showing that
Mhm.
we are able regionally and locally to do some of our own fundraising accordingly. And also just considering that this is also part of Parks and Recreation. And so if we want to prepare ourselves for a future millage in the 2026 election, it would privy us to put this on a ballot because of the amount of support that this project and perhaps several others within our Parks and Recreation master plans over the next few years could possibly encompass. So I thank you for your
Talking
your
to put it
time.
on a bond?
I'm talking about a potential millage that we've been discussing for the past 2 years.
Thank you for your comments. Your points are well taken. I mean, and since this trail collapsed, you know, we have a new city manager, half of you all up there are new. We have both of our representatives in Lansing are new. You know, the presidency has changed twice. You know, it's like things change on a year-to-year basis, sometimes faster. So, and these things take a long time. And so, you know, we've seen that with a lot of our projects.
I think the only one that still here are you and myself and Sarah.
Yeah, maybe Lindsay, maybe. Yeah, I think,
Maybe
Yeah,
a
anyway.
little bit.
yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and,
Well, look for you doing your fundraising and get back with us.
sure, I'll report back. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, moving on. Discussion on city council meeting and meeting preparation, policy, procedures and policies. City Manager Horn.
Again, this is just a discussion to get this in front of you based on our training with the Michigan Municipal League. We have talked about this. I did have our city attorney who has joined us this evening. She provided kind of a legal overview. Certainly, we don't want to have a document out there that's inconsistent with current state statute or is inconsistent with, you know, current acceptable legal language, if you will. So she has kind of gone through this document based on the legal side of this. Now, obviously, most of this is the business of city council. It's really up to you all how you want this document to to look ultimately at the end of the day, but, I don't know how much time you want to spend on this evening. Obviously, this can be a multi-meeting, ongoing discussion, but certainly there are a number of things in here that we think we could, address, that's come up in previous discussions. So now that this is kind of open for a discussion, looking at the entire document, we've updated this a number of times. The last time was March of 2012. So I think it's due to be, to really be looked at. You know, I think probably all of you are new since 2012. Mayor, were you on it 2012?
Yes, I was.
So I think now is a good time to explore this, dive into it. So you can make this document, you know, consistent with what the desires of this current city council is. I think it is important. So, if you're ready for this discussion tonight, great. If you want to just, keep this kind of on your, as unfinished business, if you will. And Sarah and I have talked about that as well. Some of the things that came up during the training were some agenda changes, but we certainly didn't want to change anything on the agenda without, ultimately, this is your agenda, so we don't want to change any headers or add anything that may be not consistent with what city council would like. So that would be something that we could talk about as well. So I'll just open the floor at this time.
I've got several things, but let's go, somebody, Mr. Knoptraub, do you have something you'd like to say?
I reviewed Laura's comments and I thought every one of them were okay with me.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't have a strong opinion.
Okay.
Other than minutes, I'd like to have shorter briefer minutes.
For minutes, like they had,
They suggested at the, you know,
you listened to it, you didn't.
oh, I was in it the whole time.
Yeah, he was remotely.
Okay. Thank you for vouching for her, Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker.
I was paying attention. He was online.
Mr. Shields, do you have something for this?
I'll pass this moment.
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, other than 6 o'clock, our regularly session meetings now at versus 7 PM, which we voted on that a couple of years ago. Everything else seems like standard protocol. I don't have anything.
Mr. Moore?
Well, no one will be surprised that I have a number of things. But I think I waited because I wanted to get the feedback from our attorney first. So I didn't go through this in the usual way that I do. But I would like to have the opportunity to do that because there are a number of things in here. I'll just give a couple examples. It says here that agendas have to be provided no later than Thursdays, which doesn't make sense. There should be a number of days beforehand because it won't always be Thursdays. So as you go through here, there's a number of things like that. There's a couple other places where I have questions for our city attorney. For example, at the training that we just took, the gentleman there that was the presenter said that you can't limit the total time that comments will be heard. Yet there is that provision under public hearing procedures. Anyway, so I think what I would like the opportunity to do is just go through this like I usually do and ask my questions.
Are
And
you
then,
talking of right now?
no. So it's in writing and then I'll give it to Shane and he can
Gotcha.
share it with everybody and share it with Laura and then everybody can accept or reject and that's what I would like the opportunity to do.
They'll
Thank you.
either reject or accept, though, not back and forth with emails, but they'll have to do it here at City Hall.
Absolutely. I give it to city manager and he gives it to everybody and we have the dialogue here. Absolutely.
I saw stuff such as the agenda, approve the agenda. I don't know if that isn't in this piece of it here, is it on page 3?
No, that would be, if you wanted to do that, that would be something we would add to it.
Do you want approval of the agenda? I don't care either way.
I don't care. It would seem to me, from a practical standpoint, that as long as we have an opportunity to submit things for the agenda, that
Right.
you're not the only one doing it with the city manager.
Right.
That works for me.
Okay. Okay. Other pieces were the public speaking, 3, 4, or 5 minutes. I think we should discuss that. We just gave Mr. Boland 15 minutes, 20, 18 minutes, something like that. I turned my phone off. But we do have some flexibility in that. We're looking at future, you guys aren't here, he's not here, I'm not here. How do we want this, what foundation do we want to lay down? You know, I think it's important. I know Shane calls and we discuss the agenda before every meeting, like on Wednesday before he puts it out. Is there something that you feel we should put out, not put out? Is there something I should ask the council for if it should be on the agenda? It isn't documented that he would talk to me about this, or not me, but the city mayor. And I'm talking of not now, I'm talking, he's gone, I'm gone. How do you want that to be handled in the future? It's a city council agenda. How do we breed that in? I don't know if it's necessary. That was my only observation. We work very well together and I don't see a need to have it put in writing, but I don't know if you do in the future down the road when we're all gone. That's the only thing I had was the public speaking and the minimizing of minutes. I did not have a problem with minimizing the minutes more. I don't believe we have to have books written. I have a question for Laura. If somebody says, I want to put my 2 bits in, I have a written statement that I want put into so it's in the public document. Is that something appropriate, Laura?
You're not required to make it part of the minutes. You can reference that it was received and you can retain it in the city's files, but you're not required to make something part of the minutes simply because somebody submits it.
Okay, that's something I think we've dealt with in the past, how we've handled it. Mr. Shields.
Can I clarify on that? Is it, so it's not required, but if a council member asks it to be, is that then a vote of the council, whether it gets included in the minutes?
Well, I think you should have a practice so that everybody's treated the same way, to the extent that you can. Because and I'm not saying this council would do it, but you could have a situation where a letter in favor of something is added to the minutes, but a letter on the same topic opposing it is not added to the minutes. And that could be problematic. And if I can add one thing, Councilmember
Please.
Moore is correct, and it was I did not catch it in my first email. The part about public comment or public hearings that needs to be stricken is the last words where it said the total amount of time can be limited. That cannot be done. You can limit each speaker to a certain amount of time. For example, everyone can speak for 3 minutes or 5 minutes each. You cannot say the total time for public comment is, for example, 30 minutes, because that could deprive someone of the opportunity of speaking at all. So I just
Right.
sent an email to Shane and Sarah highlighting that language.
Right. Mr. Moore.
The other thing that really is not acknowledged here in any way, because it was 2012, are things like Zoom participation or comments on Zoom or videos of meetings and those sorts of things. So that would be another consideration. I will say I do respectfully disagree with Mr. Nachtraub and the mayor on the minutes. First of all, I think our city clerk does an outstanding job of the minutes. And I see them as a communication tool for thank you. I see the minutes as a communication tool for the community. And I think one of the biggest overall comments I receive from folks is wanting to know more about what's happening in city governance. So I absolutely would not support any changes to the minutes. I think they're kind of, that Ms. Beck strikes a really good balance between they're not war and peace, but they're not skinny either, and people can get the drift quite well of what's happening at our meetings. So thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Shields.
I'll just echo that. I do hear comments from residents that they are reading through the minutes and getting caught up to speed with the minutes. So that supports that.
Thank you. Shane, are you good with what we've suggested or made comments on?
Yeah, we'll certainly take Laura's comments and kind of meld it into the document. We'll wait to hear back from any one of you as you continue to peruse through this document. Maybe I'll talk to Laura and her team about if they have other clients that have recently updated this document to include the Zoom aspect and electronic meetings in that process to see what that language could look like. Yeah, I think fundamentally, I think we're in pretty good shape. I think the mayor has a good ask as far as because right now, the way I read this, it's folks have up to a maximum of 5 minutes. And that's something I think that we've talked about. Is that too long? Is it okay? That's one thing that we could chime in on, I guess.
Mr. Moore?
That's why I think getting input from everybody give a good opportunity to have dialogue on those kind of issues. To see, do we want to set a specific time? Do we want to have a range of time? I think there's a number of things like that in there that we could.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, I believe Sarah does a great job as well with minutes. It's a big part of her job, 3 to 5 hours. I just asked her, that's probably the average of putting minutes together. It's a significant undertaking. We are looking at, there is software out there that can assist us in this effort. AI is a powerful tool, and I think we need to engage that maybe a little bit more than we have. Not that that's going to be the answer to all of our issues, certainly, but if there's tools out there, we need to look at ways that we can maybe be more efficient or just streamline how we're doing things, working smarter, maybe not necessarily harder. So those are things we're looking at as well. A lot of communities are going into that route as well.
Mr. Moore?
I just have one more thing on the minutes. One of the rationales that the gentleman gave at that training for shorter minutes was to say that, the more that's in your minutes, the more people in the community may be concerned or have feedback. I think the exact opposite, that's a great reason to have minutes where people can come forward and say, I respectfully disagree with what you said at a meeting. So I don't want that to go away. I think that's a reason to do what we're doing, not a reason to make them shorter. Thank you.
You all set with that, Shane?
Yes,
Does
thank
the
you.
public wish to speak on this? There being none. Go to the last item.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Are you all set with me to sign off? Or do you want-
Thank you.
Okay, great. Have a great night.
You too.
Next is a discussion on the unhoused population in the city of Petoskey. City Manager Horn.
I was just asked to put this on as a continued discussion, and I don't really have any additional feedback at this time. Certainly, this is still an issue that we need to kind of keep to the forefront. I thought our partners did a great job presenting what access to tools that our residents have. So I think certainly open to any and all suggestions on how we kind of move along and continue to support this population. I think one of the things Councilmember DeMore and I talked about that we think could be something that we could potentially try to tackle a little bit more is public safety certainly has a need to, during the winter months, especially when we run into folks that are unhoused, to get them into a warm hotel room, if shelters are occupied. In the past, we had some vouchers that we could assist with. I think Director Carr thinks that could be a great tool that his officers could use when we come up against that and try to walk alongside someone to get them into a warm room. So I think that's something that we can have continued discussion maybe with some of our partners. Maybe the Community Foundation could assist us in that effort as well. But I think that's one thing that I took from our initial discussion, that maybe something that we could dive into pretty quickly and maybe try to make a difference.
Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this evening, we had a discussion around AMI, when we were talking with, the Housing Partnership, Housing North, excuse me. And so I remember very clearly when we were talking with, North Country Community Mental Health and Brian Babbitt, we talked about, people on Social Security and what their average, income is. So people on disability and Social Security. So if you, the average is about $1,000 a month. And so 30% of their income should be, allotted towards housing. And so that would be about $333 a month would be what they could afford for housing. And so that would be the 30 to 50% of the area median income. And Emmett County has a published document with, at every county in the state of Michigan actually has a published document that shows all of those, what our area median income is for 1, 2, 3, 4 plus households. So the fact that we have not been able to meet anything below 80% of the area median income is fact. And these developments are 80 to 100 or 120% of the area median income. That's just the very fact of the nature of that. And the only one that has been able to accomplish any of that would be Victory Square, with very specific units tied to the low-income housing tax credit. So this population obviously is the most vulnerable of our population. And I also think about like, where could something like a development like that be housed, and whether that's like a housing, a shelter or transitional housing or an apartment building. I still consider the hotel that burned down on the corner of Spring Street and Sheridan Avenue, and I know that's owned by a private developer, and it was a hotel previously, which obviously brings in a lot more revenue as a developer. You're looking to, build that out. But I wonder if that could be a possible place for a future housing development that could meet that 30 to 50 or even lower than 30% of the AMI. So I just wanted to give that plug for, as a continuation of a conversation about our most vulnerable populations.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Nachtrab, you go ahead.
I call on Ms. Moore first.
So, two things. One, I definitely think this voucher problem is something that we can approach as perhaps a first step. And looking, as city manager suggested, at the community foundation holding a fund, but any, 501c3 could hold the fund. And I'd really like to see us try to move forward on that. My interest for that less than 80% is adaptive reuse, to look at existing buildings without naming any currently that could be used for this purpose. And I think it's really interesting what the gentleman, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name, the developer at the Leo's Lounge for.
Randy Flynn. Yeah.
Thank you. What he's doing in the basement there, where he's got these units that have separate beds and restrooms with central areas for a kitchen. So if you had a big building, I think that you could do quadrants or something like that. And again, very nice places to live, but something that would be affordable for the group that my colleague Walker is talking about. So those are the kinds of ideas that I'm looking to brainstorm. Obviously, this would involve private investment. I think it would have to. So those are thoughts for consideration.
Anyone else, Mr. Nachtrab?
I know time is late. I know in that I'd like the presentations. I think we're blessed to have some very talented, dedicated people in this area. I really do. And I think that's an asset that we need to continue to tap on. But I kind of flip my attitude about this, and I just want to go through 4 bullet points, some of which you've already, I'm agreeing with, but I just want to get it out here. I do think we should explore working with North Country to assist in the field, providing counseling on the spot, or at least provide regular annual training to all public safety officers and have that be there, and I think we ought to spend some money on that. We need to have a reasonable budget for Brian's organization to make this work, because that's a need that I heard crystal clear in that presentation. And I've also heard that public safety officers don't feel equipped to talk about it. So I would think we ought to do that. Number two, we need to focus on the public safety to find an emergency winter shelter through existing buildings in the area and pay for it in our budget when it's critical, and not, as Rocky said, afterwards or during, when all else fails, they go to jail. And that makes no sense to me. But it seems to me we ought to put money in the budget. I know I've been reaching out to some hotel owners. I haven't yet connected with them, but it seems like existing buildings ought to be used for that somehow. Public safety, public safety should regularly patrol high-risk areas where homeless people congregate, such as the Bear River Recreation Area, and not wait to be called. More physical and regular presence will deter the groups that can cause risk to the public safety. The city should be open to assisting private initiatives that address the needs for causes of homelessness in transitional housing where possible. But I don't believe the city should be taking the lead in this, nor expending any large sums and providing housing subsidies at all. Private organizations need to lead the issues surrounding homelessness in Petoskey, not us, other than in areas of support and public safety. And I can go on.
Who's next? Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, great ideas, solutions. I think that's a great starting point. Mr. Moore and Manager Horn on the voucher thing. That's awesome. A similar idea that I've had sitting since before this last meeting is this idea of this transitional outdoor living space for the unhoused. And I will share with Manager Horn to send around this proposal that I put together as just, again, a starting point for discussion. And in it, I identify what is the space needed for a pilot project. And I'm a huge fan of pilots. We don't have to solve the whole problem right away, but if we can demonstrate some success, then we can get more support, we can galvanize more private funding. So this lays it out and identify a certain spot there at, I believe, I confirmed with Manager Horn, it is a public, or it's a city park space, so there's complications with that have to be worked out. But that's a spot right next to the Wendy's there off of 31, that open field. But then there's also brought up tonight that large empty parking lot space that the hospital owns further to the west there, that, we have a lot of unhoused people that live in their vehicles. And there's no resources, and then now we're not allowing them to be on our streets, so we're pushing them away. What if we could have a spot where there are resources available, and we do allow and say, yes, come here and spend your night in the car. Again, transitional living until we can get them to a space that's more permanent. I think that and this is where I may disagree with a little bit, you may disagree with me a little bit here, but so far as city expending money on this, I think that it is yes and. There is, the way that I recommend or suggest that the city spend money on this is to hire a development professional. And when I say development, I'm talking fundraising. A fundraising branch or officer that would be within maybe Manager Horn's department or office. That I would also propose that it be half-time with economic development. That's something we've been saying is a need for our community for a while. So if we made room in the budget for a professional that does economic development and does fundraising, which a city definitely can do fundraising, and the donors can receive tax, there's tax implications to donating just like they would be to a 501c3. I think that's something that I want to throw out there. Maybe that won't get traction right now, but maybe in the future it will by throwing that out there. There are other communities that do have fundraisers within the city to bring in those private dollars to supplement the public dollars.
Anyone else wish to speak of council? Mr. Moore?
Just very quickly, because there's a lot of ideas out here. I'm wondering, do we have consensus at this point for the city manager at least to reach out to, let's say, the Community Foundation to see if they would be willing to hold a fund like this for vouchers? Is there consensus on that, or I'm just trying to read the room?
I'm fine with
I,
that.
I would like to add, I question whether that is the process that you are gonna find the foundation is gonna work with. City manager and I met with, the foundation and discussed the same process for arts in the community and the art. If we had $80,000 and we had given it to us to put towards art, and we put it in there in the fund, we could only take out $5,000, 5,000%, 5% a year. The rest would have to stay in there. So it's not, for $100,000, they're gonna give you $5,000 of your money to spend on a yearly basis.
Well, I hear you, but I think this is a unique ask.
Okay.
And I think if it doesn't work, another alternative might be something like a 501c3, like the Salvation Army themselves, since they're the ones that came up with this idea. So I might reach out to Mr. Hank or Mr. Hanks also. Again, these are all just brainstorms, but
Well,
rather than
I wasn't saying no to it. I'm just saying, we have tried going through the foundation as a bank, so to speak, and that was not how they wanted to proceed. Perhaps they have another account situation. Mr. Horn, do you know?
No, I'm not aware, but we can certainly have that
We
discussion.
can ask.
Yeah.
Mr. Knobtrop?
At least in my conversation with Rocky after that session, the issue is, and we even talked, we have the money or have vouchers, but we don't have any place to put them. No one will take them.
that's the other.
So
Right.
to me, we're talking about vouchers when we really need to have also a
Location.
location to take them. And that's why in my recommendation, I'd say existing buildings. If it's not hotels, is there other organizations around that has places? Because these poor people in the winter, I mean, it's awful.
You understand that they are moving, I believe they do have a piece of property off of Intertown and the highway. And that is where they are hoping to build and construct a larger unit. And I think supporting that process is very important. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all, Mr. Nagaraj. I think there's all these component parts. I'm just wanting us to find a place to start, but you're right. I mean,
We have the money in.
yeah. I mean, another element would be reaching out
Yes.
to existing hotels in the community to see if they will be community partners
Yes.
in this endeavor.
Okay, any other discussion? Public wish to weigh in on what we've discussed? There being none, I'm gonna start with Ward 4, Ms. Walker for public, for your council comment.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am very anxious and interested in working on our budget. I think about the months of November and December as reviewing the numbers and our projected goals and intentions for 2026. I also took very much to heart in the Michigan Municipal League presentation that transpired last week. They said a budget is a reflection of your values, and I truly believe that in my heart of hearts. And so thinking about our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, improving on our parks, our Little Traverse Wheelway, I think about these all under the umbrella of our budgetary constraints and also opportunities. And then I wanted to mention that we do have renewable energy goals that the mayor approved and this council approved in 2018. And it is 100% renewable by 2035. And we have no plan to get there. And so I also want to see a reflection in our budget as a reflection of our values of some kind of plan to get us to 100% renewable energy by 2035. And as part of our enterprise fund with our utility company, I would really be hopeful that that would be something that would be reflected in our budget next year and into 2035.
Ward 3, Mr. Knobtrop.
In the interest of time, I'll defer my time.
Ward 2, Mr. Shields.
I was contacted by a resident asking about whether chickens were allowed to be had in the city, and I did not know. I actually was on the assumption that they were, but I've learned that they are not specifically allowed. They're not prohibited, but because they're not specifically allowed, they're not allowed. So I am asking if we can have a discussion about this on the next meeting's agenda. That I had shared with Manager Horn some potential language that we can hash around. I understand that our city attorney does the drafting of ordinances, at least has the final look at them to save money potentially, or at least to start the discussion. I just drafted some ideas, potential language to discuss. So I'm just asking if we can add that to the agenda.
Mr. Moore.
Ward 1?
Yeah.
Oh. I have Liam Washington here tonight from the Petoskey Youth Advisory Council, and Ms. Shields, Ayla Shields, was here tonight too. Do you want to make the announcement about what you guys are doing, or do you want me to do it? Okay. No worries. I put you on the spot, Liam, so I just want to let you all know that for the upcoming Veterans Day, on Monday night at the Youth Advisory Council meeting, instead of meeting here, they're going to be meeting at Flowers from Sky's the Limit. They're making 300, fingers crossed, flower arrangements for veterans, and they will be up at the Odawa Casino along with me at 6 a.m. in the morning, which rarely happens for the record. Directly distributing the flowers to what is apparently 400 to 600 veterans that attend that breakfast in the morning. So they'll have a report about that after it's mission accomplished. Thank you.
I have 3 things. Attended the ribbon cutting along with City Manager Horn for the Victory Square ribbon cutting. Spectacular 30 to 80 AMI, as well as they've announced that they across the street, we're going to put up 40 more apartments building into it. I also had the opportunity to go in. I was asked to come up and talk to Victor Leduc's government class on city, how it operates. I was very impressed with the questions. I thought some of these guys were going to sleep through it all, but they were very attentive. Now I have one other announcement. Light the candle. Bring it up. Birthday cake.
Happy birthday to you.
Wow.
Happy birthday
To you.
Happy birthday, dear Shane.
Happy
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, where's,
Many more.
don't leave yet because I brought, along with it, I have, paper plates. I have knives. I
Not
have,
compostable or recyclable.
and we also have napkins and we have, where's the plates? Where are they?
Keep them your next. All 100% compost.
Thank you.
Get rid of those
Appreciate
that
that.
was
Thank
nice.
you.
shenanigans.
I said that.
I don't see them here.
They're not there.
Good job, young person. Thank you for staying the course.
Oh, Liam, that was great. You stayed.
Here we
Yeah.
go. Here we go.
Downstairs we do.
Are we adjourning?
But if we have to adjourn, or we're still having a party.
No further business come for this meeting. I call this meeting adjourned for cake.